Hello, futuristic developers. Welcome to another front-end tutorial with React. You have already seen the eye-catching design of this project in the intro. Now let's dive into what you will learn throughout this tutorial. First, you will learn how to build a project completely from scratch using modern Next.js, how to make market-ready websites with Tailwind CSS. You will be using TypeScript to make your project fully type-safe. Next, you will be building stunning animations like smooth scrolling, parallax effects, and much more using Framer Motion. We will also see how to design a responsive UI that works beautifully. Finally, deploying your website on the internet so you can showcase your skills to potential clients and companies and get hired. This tutorial is completely beginner friendly, and as always, I strive to bring you the best content. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends to support me. Let's get started. So here we are in a blank VS Code directory. And usually when we start our Next.js project, then in terminal we write this command npx create next app at latest. But the problem with this command is it comes with some unnecessary code and some unnecessary assets. So to save the time, I have made a starter pack for this project on the GitHub. So you can go to this link. I will attach this link in the description of this video. I know for now this repository is private, but by the time when I will be releasing this video, I will make this repository as public so you all can access this easily. You just have to copy this link and in the VS Code write git clone, paste the link and in your current directory. So it will clone the starter pack for this project. Now let's see what's included in this starter pack. So this starter pack comes with all the assets required for making this project. It includes the images like the hero frames, some monkey images, avatars, collection images, company images, and some social images. Okay. Now let's do a go through of this app directory, what's included in the app directory of this starter pack. Here we have our default page.tsx and it includes only one line subscribe to Zen Keeps code. And you should do this. Now we have layout.tsx. Again, layout.tsx is very simple for now. We have the parent HTML and body and everything is wrapped inside these tags. Nothing else. We have globals.css. In the globals.css, we have done this basic Tailwind configuration and we have defined two variables, background and foreground. Now, further moving on, we have a data folder. Inside the data folder, I have defined some dummy data that we will require to make different sections like category data, collection data, top collection data. All of these are just some dummy data with different data structures of objects, nothing else. Then I have made a utility hook use window size to determine the size of screen in React components. I know we can do this easily in CSS, but to know the size of the screen in JavaScript, we need some logic. So that logic is written here. I will explain this when we will be going through this part. So that's it for the app directory. Now outside the app directory, we have a package.json. Inside the package.json, I have already defined all the required dependencies for this project so that we will never have the issue of dependencies version conflict that becomes very irritating as project progress. Okay. In the dependencies, we have only used the framer motion mostly for the animations, Lanis for the smooth scrolling, and these are the basic necessities for the Next.js project, and Tailwind merge, which is again a utility dependency for better handling of our Tailwind classes with some JavaScript logic. In the dev dependencies, we have installed the prettier plugin Tailwind CSS to format the Tailwind classes in a uniform order across the project. So let's move back to the directory. After the package.json, we have tailwind.config.ts. Here I have defined some basic theme variables like the colors, background, which is coming from our global CSS, the foreground and primary color, which is the orange color. Then some font sizes, they are very basic, 10 for 10 pixel, 14 for 14 pixel. I will let you know how we are using this in the project. That's it for our starter pack. Now let's install these dependencies and start our project. So here in the terminal, let's clear the terminal and write npm install. It will install all the required dependencies here. Okay. Let's close the terminal by pressing Ctrl plus J, or if you are on a MacBook, then you can press Command plus J. Here you can see the node modules folder which contains the dependencies data. Now again go to the terminal and write npm run dev to run this project locally on your machine. Okay, so it is started on the port 3000, and in the URL bar I'm writing localhost 3000, and you can see only one line of code subscribed to ZenKeep's code. This means we are starting this project from scratch. The only thing which is included in this starter pack is package.json, which includes some predefined dependencies set so that we never have the conflict of versions. Then some assets in the public folder like the images, and inside the app folder we have some dummy JSON data and a utility hook inside the use window size. Okay, that's it. Let's start our project by going to the layout.tsx here. The first thing that we have to do, we have to import the font that we're going to be used throughout this project. The font name is Inria Sans, and this font comes from the Google font. So inside the next, you can import the Google fonts from this directory, next font Google. And let's define the configuration for this font in our project. So Inria Sans is equal to Inria Sans, and we have to give it a variable name to use it inside the CSS. So font Inria Sans, I will be giving this name. Then we have to specify the subsets inside the array. We can specify the Latin subset. And the final thing is the weight, which weights we're going to use in this project. So the first weight is 300, then the 400 and 700. Okay, the next thing is we have to give some title and description to our website, which is good for SEO. So we can import the type metadata from the next, and here we can say export const metadata, which is a type of metadata. Let's give it a title. So title would be the name of the website, and in the description you can give any dummy description. So for now I am giving Nexus is your one-stop solution for NFTs. It's just some dummy. Okay, so let's save this and see here. If I refresh my browser, there is no error, everything is working fine so far. Now we have to apply this font on our body. Here inside the body tag, I will give it a class name, and while giving the class name, I will enclose it inside the curly braces because I have to use the name of our font. So the font name is InRealSense.variable. Let's apply it. Now go to global.css. So here you can see global.css. Just open it and write some styling for the body. The very first thing is of course the font family that we have just made. So for that one, font Inria pens that we have just defined, and the fallback fonts are Arial and Helvetica Sans Serif. Let's save this and our font is applied. Okay, we have also defined the background and foreground color. So let's use it. By default, I would say the color of our font in the app would be the foreground color, and the background would be our background color. So variable background, let's save this. Yep, so it is applied successfully. Let's close our global.css and let's see what else we have to apply on our body class name. I will say it as position relative with the mx auto, which will give it the margin left and right auto, and the box border. So box border, which is actually the box sizing border box. If you ever become confused in the shorthand class names of the Tailwind, then you can install the Tailwind extension, and when you hover on any class name, it will give you the detail of that class name. So here I have applied the box border, which will give it the box sizing border box, which means all the paddings and the borders would be inside the boundary, not outside the boundary throughout the app. Okay. We also have to define the maximum width that our website can take on any display is 1728 pixels. This means if there is a very huge display, then our website would only be expanded up to 720 1728 pixels. Okay. And horizontally, I'm giving it the padding of 17 pixel. The vertical padding would also be the 17 pixels. And I think we should reduce our vertical padding up to the 10 pixel instead of the 17 pixel. Yeah, it is looking good. And then anti-aliased. So anti-aliased, again, what this do, if I hover it, it gives us the font smoothing on different kind of browsers. As we are developing this project from the mobile first approach, so we will be building all the components keeping in the mobile as primary device. And then we will be applying the media queries for the larger devices. And that's actually recommended approach because most of your user base uses the mobile. So if you make your website optimized first for the mobile, then you're gonna have good SEO and retention of your users. So let's save this and now go inside our app folder, and here let's make a new folder. Give it a name of components. Make sure I am attaching the underscore as the first character of every folder because I don't want these folder to be acting as the subroutes of the app folder. Therefore, I have attached, let's suppose if I keep it like this without the underscore, then it would become a route so that someone can access components route by writing like localhost 3000 slash components, which we don't want. Okay, so just keep it like this, and here make another folder with the name header, which will be the very first component of our website. Inside the header, make header.tsx, write RAFC for the fat react arrow function, which is just a shorthand to make it quickly, and replace the name with the capital letters, which is the usual convention for the React.js. Let's save this, go to the layout.tsx, and here on the very top, attach the header here because header should be the part of the layout of our application, the header and footer. Therefore, we are putting the header inside the layout.tsx. Let's start to import it by the VS Code suggestion. Once you type the header, it will give you auto suggestion and you can accept it. Here you can see on the top, it is attached here. Let's save it and we can see header written here. Okay. In the header.tsx, remove this div, make the tag of header. Here we will make our div with the display flex, the justify item between, because we want on the left side there should be the logo of our website and on the right side there should be the menu icon. So justify between to make them justified on the left and right side. Then items center to make them aligned horizontally on a common axis, x-axis. Save this. Here I would say a span logo, and here I would say a span menu icon. Just for now, let's save this. I think that's the right time to delete this line of subscribe to Zen keeps code. So go to the page.tsx. By the way, you can also use this shortcut to quickly switch between your files by pressing command plus P if you're on Mac, and on Windows you can press control plus P. Okay, so I'm just rendering nothing for now inside the page.txs. So here we can see logo and menu icon written, but they are not on the left and right side because we have missed the S here. It should be the justify between. Let's save this and now we can see it properly. They are justified on the left and right side. For now, I have zoomed it up to the 200%, therefore it is looking too big. If I do it on the right size of 100%, then it looks something like this. And I have also opened our deployed version in another tab so that we can have a good reference while building this website. Okay, let's move this logo span and here make a proper logo component. Okay, inside the directory, inside the header folder, I will make another file logo.tsx. Again, RAFCE for the fat arrow function and make it as logo. We can auto import it. On the Mac, you can press Fn control plus spacebar and it will give you the auto suggestions. And here we have the logo return. Okay, so for the logo, let's make it simply as span the text, and the text have the 23 pixel of font size with the font bold and uppercase. Okay, the first three letter are next, and then inside another span we have the OS written. If I save this, here is the Nexus written, but we want to give some other color to OS, so the class name text primary. If I go to our tailwind.config.js, so in the TS, so here you can see I have given this primary color to this value. Okay, so therefore when I am writing text primary, it is taking actually this value. Go to the header.tsx again. Now remove this span of menu icon and actually make a menu icon here. Again, in our header folder, I will be making a new file with the name menu icon.tsx rafce menu icon. Let's see what we are actually building for this menu icon. I will go to our deployed version, and for this menu icon, we have these three horizontal lines. So it's very simple to build. Let's make a parent div, and inside this parent div, we will be having three more divs for three horizontal lines. But for this parent div, data menu icon, give it the data menu icon, and then the class name for this will be display flex direction column, because all of these lines should be in column direction. The gap between each line should be 4 pixels. The cursor would be the pointer when it hovers on this, the position relative, and the z index of 51, because when sidebar gonna be open like this, then this icon should always be visible. Therefore, I am giving it a z index of 51. Switch back to our development environment here. Let's save this, and inside the header.tsx, let's import this menu icon as well. Here I will make the three divs by simply writing div multiply by 3. It will make the three divs. Now I will hold the options key and I will click on these three cursors, actually these three cursor positions, and I will give the class names at once for all of them. They all will be having the width of 16.5 pixel, the height of 1.5 pixel, background white, transition all, so transition all, and the duration of their transition would be 300 ms. Let me zoom out a bit so you can see it properly. Okay. All of these divs gonna be empty divs. So let's save this. And here we have these three horizontal lines. Now, if I switch to our deployed version, when we are clicking on these three lines, they are animating. It's actually a kind of micro animation in the website. You can see each of these lines are changing its direction and they are making a cross. To achieve this effect, let's switch back to our development website, and we have to pass some props to this component. The first prop is open, and the second prop would be set is open. These two props would be the state of this icon. If it's open, then the icon state would be the cross, and if it is not open, then the icon state would be these three lines. Okay, we also have to define the type of this prop. So add a colon here, and again add an object. We can give is open as the boolean, and for the set is open, just give it a simple function with the boolean type of value and returning void like this. Okay, again hold the options key, and in front of each of these class names just click here and remove this unnecessary cursor. Now let's see how I will be importing the tailwind merge for all of them at once. So hold options shift and move your arrow keys up to the end of these class names. Add curly braces here, then small brackets, and on the front import tw merge, which is coming from the tailwind merge. Let's import it. Now for each of them we have to handle the animation differently, so we can remove these parallel cursor, and for first class we have to merge some more properties on the basis of the icon state. So we can add the JavaScript logic with the help of this TW merge. I know we can also do this by the backticks, but it becomes very messy to read the code. Therefore, it is handy to use the TW merge. Okay, remove this extra line. And here I would say, if it is open, then rotate this first line 45-degree and translate it on the y-axis up to the 6 pixels like this. Now I will just copy this second parameter, go to the second div, add the column again, paste this here and tweak these values. For this one, I would not use these rotate 45 or translate y, just simply remove this. Actually, there was no use of copy and pasting. Simply we have to give the opacity of 0 because for making the cross we only need 2 lines, not the 3 lines. Here it would be useful if we just copy and paste, and for this one rotate it in the negative 45 degree and in the negative y direction 6 pixels. Let's format the code again. To format the code, you can press Command Shift P and here write format document with. I will highly suggest you to use the prettier for your documents formatting. So here if I click on format document with, I have prettier installed. So I would just simply click on this and my document is now formatted with the prettier. But there is a shortcut key also as well. You can press Option Shift F, which will do the same job. Let's save this, and we have to pass these props as well, and we haven't used set is open. Let's use this first. Add an arrow function, and it is very simple. Just do the negation of our previous value. Let's save this. Now there is an error, and this error is a very basic error because we have used the onClick function. So this means this component should be a client side component. So add the use client here, and yep, okay. Let's pass the parameters. Before passing the parameters, we have to define those variables. Make the states like this: is open, set is open, use state. We have to import the use state from the React on the top. And because we are importing the use state here, again, this should also be the client side component. Okay, we have to pass both of them to our menu icon. So is open is actually the is open state, and set is open is our set is open function. It's very simple. I'm again formatting the code. Let's save this and see now if it's changing its state or not. So here you can see it is very beautifully animating, just like we have on our deployed version here. Yeah, of course, we haven't implemented the sidebar yet, but it's working fine. Let's handle the header for our desktop now. So I will switch my VS Code to full screen now, and also I'm switching my browser to full screen as well. Okay, first go to the layout.tsx, and here I want to increase the horizontal padding and the vertical padding for the large screen. So we can use this identifier LG for the large screens. For large screens, I will use the horizontal padding of 100 pixels, and again for the large screen apply the vertical padding of 23 pixels like this. And we can enable the word wrap because you see when we are applying the long CSS classes, then VS Code enables the scrolling and it becomes hard to keep the context in line. So on the Mac you can press Options plus Z to enable the word wrap, and Alt plus Z on the Windows. Okay, so let's apply this and see in the browser. Yes, so this is our padding now, and if I go to the deployed version, let's see if we have on the 100% zoom level, and here, yeah. Okay, so it seems nice. Now we have to increase the size of our logo for the desktop. Go to logo.tsx and here apply a very simple class LG text 42 pixels for the desktop. Let's see in the browser. Yes, it seems fine. Okay, again go to our header.tsx, and here we don't want this menu icon to be visible on the large screens. Currently, if I see here, we have this menu icon. However, on our deployed version, we don't have this icon. We have a button actually. So let's do this. I will wrap our menu icon in another div, simply like this. Format the code again. Let's make proper comments also. So menu icon for mobile screens, give it the class name. So on the large screen, I want this icon to be hidden. So as simple as it is. Okay, so now this icon is hidden. Next, we want there should be the menu in the center of the desktop and a button on the right of the desktop. So let's start with the center menu. So center menu. And for now, I'm simply making a div and say the center menu so that we can define our layout first, and then of course we can write more code. And button, so here again div, and inside this div I'm simply saying button. Let's save the code. Here we have the center menu and the button, and the menu icon is hidden now. Give the class names to our center menu. So class name by default, we want this hidden because we are doing it with the mobile first approach. So we have to think about the classes on the mobile first. We want the center menu to be hidden. So by default, I'm writing it as display hidden. However, on large displays, make it as display flex. I don't know why there are so much suggestions from the VS Code, and the gap between the item should be 25 pixels. The text size should be 18 pixels. Okay, let's define some links in this. So for the link, we will be using the link which comes from the next slash link. I am doing the auto import, but you can see on the top it is imported from the next link. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. And href, for now I'm just giving it a link of our home page and then some class names. On hover, I want the text should be primary, which is our orange color, and transition should be applied, a smooth transition should be applied on the colors. Okay, and inside the link I am giving the first link of explore. Let's format the code, save it, and see here. So here we have beautiful link and it is transitioning on hover. Okay, similarly I am just copy and pasting some more links so we don't waste a lot of time just doing some iterative stuff. Let's save this, and here we have all the links. Let's make the button now. Remove this simple text of button and make a proper button tag here. I would say it as connect wallet, like this. Give it the class names, background, primary. The most important, on mobile it should be hidden, and on large devices it should have display block. The text inside the button should be white. The horizontal padding is 20 pixels, yeah. And on the vertical direction, I am giving it 7 pixel, rounded full. Uh, yep. Let's save this. See if it's matching with our deployed version or not. Yeah, I think it's matching. I know there's a difference of height because here we are mentioning it as localhost 3000, so that this top bar would be there. Therefore, we are seeing a difference in height, but it's looking exactly like our deployed version. Let's check on the mobile again if it is still working fine there. So I will do the inspect mode, and in the inspect mode, you can open the inspect mode by pressing Command Options plus I and then click here to switch to the mobile device. And yes, it's looking fine. And if I switch back to the desktop version, yes, let's see our deployed version and again do the inspect. I think there is a little bit of more height on the top. So we can add this height by going to our VS Code, and in the header on the top here we can add a padding Y of 7 pixels. So 7 pixels, and yeah, now it's looking exactly same. Let's move towards our sidebar, which should appear from right on clicking this button. So again, in the folder of header under the components, I will make a new file with the name of sidebar.tsx. RFCE, change the name with the sidebar and import this at the end of our header.tsx. So below this button, actually after this div, here I am making a comment sidebar and sidebar, import it automatically and just close this. Let's save this, and here we can see we have imported this component. Okay, let's go to our sidebar.tsx. Let's move this predefined div and make a new div here. Inside this, first I have to define all the links because all the links should be in the column direction. So for this div, I will use the class name of display flex with the flex direction of column. The gap between each item should be 25 pixels. Next, I will simply copy all the links from our desktop version and paste them here. You can import auto import it by fn plus control plus space. Next link, let's save this, and here we have the list of links. Okay, now make the structure of our sidebar. So for this I will use the position fixed and the z index of 50, so that when it opens it should be top of any content present on the screen. From top the position should be the 0, and from right it should also have 0 distance. So let's save this, and now we have it towards the top and towards the most right direction. Okay, it should have the height of our full screen and the width of 250 pixels. Let's save this. Okay, next the background, I would give it a black background, and here we have black background. Okay, the next thing is we should handle the opening and closing on clicking this button, right? The menu icon. So for this, we have to accept the some props in our sidebar. I'm making a simple interface for these props and set them as sidebar props. The first one is open. It is a type of boolean, true or false. The next one is set is open. Again, the value would be a type of boolean and the return type is void. Let's give them here is open, set is open, and the type is our interface sidebar props. Let's pass these two things from our header.tsx. Here you see we have defined this state. So is open, set is open. We can just simply pass down here is open is equal to is open, and similarly set is open to equal to set is open. Let's format the code. Now we have to use them to make the opening and closing. Okay, so here instead of using these double quotations for the string, I will utilize the tailwind merge for the better readability. So here again, just enclose all of this in small brackets. Import the tw merge here, and as the second parameter, if it is open, then our translate x should be 0, means it should be on its original position. However, if it is not open, then slide it up to the full width of our screen, so that when it is not open, then it would slide out of our view towards the right side. Let's save this. And here, because it is closed now, when I open it, it comes into the view, and when I click again, it comes out of the view. But for now, this transition is not so smooth. So to make it very smooth, here I can use the transform, then the transition transform, option Z to enable the word wrap, and then the duration simply could be 300 milliseconds with the animation type of ease in out. Okay, let's save this. Now try again. So here you can see now it is coming in and out of the view very smoothly. And here we did a typo in gap 25 pixels. Therefore, gap is not appearing very well here. I used the equal sign. However, there should be the separator. Let's save this. Okay. It should also have some margin from the top side. So from the top side, I am giving it a margin of 60 pixels and the text size of 18 pixels. Let's save this. Yes, now it is looking very good. If I go to our deployed version and see the sidebar, yeah, the only thing missing is our connect button. And also when I am clicking outside of this sidebar in the deployed version, the sidebar is closing. But let's quickly make the button. So I will just copy and paste the button from our header.tsx. Simply copy this, and below the last link, I am pasting it here. Save it. But we have to modify these two classes. There is no use of hidden and large block because we always want this button to be visible in the sidebar. So just simply remove this, and here we have this button. To detect the outside click, I will use the use ref hook from the React. So first make a reference to our sidebar ref, use ref from the React. It would be an HTML div element, and by default it is having the value of null. Now give this reference to our parent div of our sidebar. So ref is equal to sidebar ref. Let's format the code. Okay. Now we will need a use effect to detect our mouse down event, so that whenever any button is clicked of mouse, it will be detected. Okay. So here I'm in the use effect from React, and it will be triggered whenever set is open function is called. Let's add an event listener. Document dot add event listener, mouse down, handle click outside. Okay, let's define our handle click outside now. So const handle click outside, accepting an event which is a mouse event type. In this function, first check which element is clicked. So for that one, here I am making a constant of clicked element event dot target as node. Okay, and then I will check if this element is the part of sidebar or not. If that element is a part of sidebar, then I will keep the sidebar open. If it is not, then I will make the sidebar closed. So I can very simply do this if sidebar ref dot current exists, and if this clicked element is not in the sidebar ref, so it is very simple function, sidebar ref dot current dot contains is not true. I hope it's making sense. Then we are making the set is open close. Let's add one more curly bracket, format the code. I'm revising it again. So I have imported a use effect, which is triggering every time open is changing its state. I have added an event listener of mouse down, which is triggering handle click outside function. This function, first of all, check which element is clicked, and then it is simply checking if that element is a part of sidebar, then it keeps it opens, otherwise it is making it as closed. Let's save this and see its functionality here. So now if I'm clicking here, which is the outside region, the sidebar is closed. I click on this again, this is open again. But there is a catch. Actually, there is a bug. So now sidebar is open, and if I'm clicking this icon again, this is not closing. Why? Because this icon is a part of sidebar element now, right? Because this icon exists inside the sidebar, and here we have made a condition that if any element is a part of sidebar, then it keeps it opens. So as soon as this icon triggers the closing, the sidebar triggers its opening, right? So to handle it more gracefully, we have to make an other check. Let's extract out the menu icon using the JavaScript. So document.querySelector data menu icon. If you remember, we added this attribute to our menu icon. Here we have menu icon.tsx, and we have added it here, data menu icon. So first extract it out and then check if menu icon contains our clicked element, then simply return out. So in simple words, what it is doing, it is checking if the click is happened on our menu icon, then do not do anything. Just return out from this function. However, we still want that this sidebar should be closed. So this functionality would be handled by our menu icon.tsx. Here we have implemented on clicking this, the open should be negated so that this logic would end up here, and then this logic would do its job. If I'm clicking this icon now, it is closing and opening very gracefully. So our sidebar is completed. It's time to move towards the hero section of our website. Let's close all the files related to our header component. So I'm closing header.tsx, sidebar, menu icon, logo. Okay, now we have two files, page.tsx where we have nothing, and the layout.tsx. We know that the hero section should be the part of our page. It should not be the part of our layout. In the layout, there comes the component which should be the common across all the pages of the website, like header and footer. So to make the hero section, we should make it inside the page.tsx. First, there comes a parent div, and we know that all the section in our parent div should come in the column direction because all the section flow in one column. If I go to the deployed website, here you see this is the hero section, then this is an auction section, this is the popular collection section. So everything is flowing in the column direction. So what I will do, I will make it as a display flex with the direction column. Class name display flex, flex direction column. The gap between the elements should be 40 pixels on the mobile. The padding from the top for our main page is 40 pixels as well. And on the large screen, the gap between the sections should be increased. So I would say on the large screen, this gap should be increased up to the 145 pixels. And the padding in the y direction should be 11 pixels. like this. Let's save this. And here if I write hero section, here we have the padding from the top, which is the 40 pixels. And if I make another element, then the gap between those elements would be the 40 pixels. Okay, let's make a hero section. As of now, we have no hero section. So I will go to our directory, and inside the components, let's make a new folder with the name hero section. Inside this one, make a file hero section.tsx. Again, RFCE. Replace the default name to hero section. Let's save this and auto import it here by VS Code. So it is imported on the top, and here we see this hero section. Okay. Again, if I go to our deployed version, here you see everything in our hero section on the mobile screen is in the column direction. First, we have this slogan, then we have this hero text, then we have these hero animating frames, these numbers, and then there is some small text. So everything is in the column direction. So it makes sense to make it as the display flex with the direction column as well for the mobile screen. So I will say is flex column. The gap between the elements would be the 38 pixels. On the larger screens, this gap would be reduced up to the 16 pixels. And I would also like to include a vertical direction padding of 11 pixels for the large screen. 11 pixels. Let's do a little bit of zoom out, format the code. Let's make a div for it with the text in the center of the div. And I would also like to give it a padding of 10 pixels in the horizontal direction. And there I am just writing some dummy text. So let's paste it here, format the code, save it, and here we have this. Next, we have to make the hero title. Again, if I go to the deployed version here, we can see this hero title is divided into the three lines. This is the first one, second, and the third. And in each line, we have some different text. And in the first two of them, we have these animating frames as well. So what I will do, I will break down the hero title in the three different divs, and then we will put these frames accordingly. For this div, give it a text size of 25 pixels on the mobile screen. And so div, and the class name, I am giving it a text size of 25 pixels. The flex direction of column, of course with the flex display flex, the items in the center, the justify is also in the center. The gap between element is 14 pixels, and that's it. Let me do a little bit of zoom out and enable the word wrap so you can see it better. So text 25 pixel and the simple configuration. Now we have to write our first line. So first line now, because in this line everything should be in the row, the first word, then this frame, and then this last word. So again I will give it a display flex, and by default the flex is having the row direction. So I just have to give it the item center, and the gap between the items would be the 15 pixels. Okay, let's make the layout first. So the first thing would be the word discover, then the next thing would be an animating frame, and then the last word is collect. Let's save this, go to our version, and here we have discover frame and collect. Let's make a reusable component for this frame because we have to use it in the first and second line. So again, I will go to in the directory, and inside the hero section folder, make a new file with the name heroframe.tsx. And in this frame, of course, we will also use the framer motion for the animations, RAFCE and hero frame. Let's save it. Just simply add the hero frame here, hero frame. Let's save it, and yep, it is imported perfectly. Okay, first I would need to accept some parameters for this frame. The first parameter would be the height, the second parameter would be the width, the background image in this frame, and the animation type. By default I will give it the animation type of scale down. Okay, next we have to define the types for our props. We can do it either by interface or just by simply declaring the type here by adding a colon. So I'm just simply adding a type here. The height would be a type of object. The first property would be the base height. That is the height for our mobile screen. It should be the number. The height for the large screen, again, it would be the number. Similarly, we have the width, base, and large screen width. Okay, the background image, it would be just a kind of string because it's just a URL, and then the animation type. Animation type can be of two types. The first type is the scale down, which will be used for the first frame, and in the second frame we will use the move type animation, and I'm making it optional for now. Let's save it. So till yet, what we have done, we have simply declared a hero frame component with some parameters, and we have declared the type of those parameters. Now we are actually going to define that frame. Let's move this simple div from here and import the motion from the framer motion like this. Make it as a client side component because framer motion would only work on the client side. So use client like this. There are a lot of warnings that we have introduced a lot of variables and constants, but we haven't used anything. Of course, we will be using all of them. So just ignore these warnings for now. And let's make a motion dot div here. There will be no content inside this motion dot div. So what can we actually do? We can just make it as a self-closing div and define the styles for it. The first thing would be the background image, and background image can be just set by the URL, and we are defining the string here that we have used here. Then the width of this frame, and width we can use from our accepted parameter. This one, width dot base for the mobile screens. And similarly, we will also declare the height for our frame. Now to use the different width and height on the large screens, I will declare the two variables, two CSS variables here actually. So large width, and that large width would be equal to our width dot lg pixels, and similarly the large height that would be equal to the height dot lg pixels. Let's define the type of our style. So as react dot css properties. Okay, let's save this and see what we have done. There is an error that there is no width dot base because we haven't passed any parameter from here yet. Let's pass the appropriate parameters from here. Define the height for the mobile, which is 34 pixels, and for the large screen it is 68 pixels. Similarly, the next thing is the width, so I'm just copy and pasting the properties of width as well, 123 and 3 to 6. Then the background image, as we have already imported all of the assets from the starter pack, therefore you have nothing to do inside the public folder. All the images are already in the place, so you just have to write this path here, and that's done. Let's save this. Okay, let's save this, and here we have this frame. To make the image fit perfectly inside our frame, we have to use the native CSS. So inside the hero section, I will make a new file with the name hero frame.module.css, and inside this file, write a class name frame with the border radius of 999 pixels, or we can add two more nines. Background size of cover. Then the background position is in the center, and the background repeat as no repeat. Let's save this. And now we have to import the styles from this CSS file. So import styles from hero frame, actually hero frame dot module dot css like this. And yep, here we have the motion dot div. Let's give it a class name, which would be the styles dot, just simply the frame, not the hero frame. Let's save this. Okay, here it is giving us an error that import styles from hero frame is not declared. Maybe there is a typo. Let's check it again. Yep, there should be a relative path of this CSS file. So now we have this beautiful frame here. The next thing, we have to do the animation inside this frame when this frame gonna appear on the screen. If I go to the deployed version here, you can see if I refresh the page, this frame is animating very beautifully and giving us an animation of scale down. So from here you have a clear idea what I have to use here, I have to use the prop type of animation type with the scale down. Let's save it. And in this component, now we have to use the animation type parameter for making the actual animations on this div. So on the top of hero frame.tsx, I think here it's better to define our animation types. So const animations, we will define only two types of animations, the scale down as we have also mentioned in the parameters type. So if it is a scale down animation, then initially the background size of our frame, okay, so background size of our frame should be 150% of its actual size. And when it animate, so when it animate, then the background size would come to its original size of 100%. Then the transition, how it should transition from 150% to 100%. The duration of this transition should be 3.5 seconds and ease as ease in out. So ease in out. Then the second animation that we have in this section is the move animation that will be for the second frame. So on this frame, okay, let's switch to our current version. So you should not be confused here. So initially the background position would be 100% and center. And when it animate, so when it animate, then the background position should be 50% and center. The third thing is transition again. So for the transition of this, the duration would be the 3 seconds and the ease type of ease in out again. Okay, there's a problem that we have missed a comma here. Let's save it. So there's the animations. Now we are getting the animation type from this prop. So here I would find out the actual animation, which will be the animation is equal to animations into animation type. So as it has received scale down, so it will search for the scale down here and this animation would be applied. Okay, so means this variable would get this value, this one. Okay, now in the framer motion div, I have to say initially the type of animation would be animation.initial, then animate would be animation.animate, and transition would be animation.transition. And here we have this frame. If I'm refreshing, here you see it is very beautifully showing an animation. If I compare it with our deployed version, so let's refresh here. And yes, it's exactly same here as well. Cool. Now let's move to the second line. So this one was the first line, and now we have the second line. The second line again would be very easy because we have already defined the animation. Again, display flex with the items in the center, and the gap between the items would be 15 pixels. Then the first thing here would be the hero frame. Pass the height and width of this frame. So I'm just simply copying and pasting the height and width. The base 34, LG 68 height, and width 123 width, and LG 251. Okay, let's close this component. The next parameter is the background image. So for the background image, you can pass this URL. In the images, we have hero frame 2.png, and the animation type would be equal to move. Let's save this. And in the second line, I think we have, yeah, we have these words. So we can write all of these words in a single span. So let me copy and paste them, Control C. Okay, let's save this here, go to our version, and here we have this frame. If I refresh now, yes, there is a very beautiful animation for both of these frames as we have on the deployed version. Yeah, let's simply make the third line, which is the most easiest because there is no animation included here in terms of frames. So I will simply use a span and rear NFTs. Let's save this, and yeah, it's done. The next part is to make the moving frames of monkeys in the center as we have on the developed version. If I refresh this, you see first they are coming in and then they are changing their positions continuously. So at the last, I will make a new div with the display flex and the flex direction column in the deployed version. If I go there, These moving frames actually and these stat numbers, these moving frames and these stat numbers are in a common div. Therefore, I have made this div in the direction column. Then the items center, justify center. The gap between the elements on the mobile screens would be 25 pixels. Just save it. And then here I would make the moving frames, and then I would have the stats. So just make the stats for now like this, stats, and here I am making a new component, hero moving frames. Okay, again go to the directory, and inside the hero section folder make a new file with the name hero moving frames.tsx, RAFCE, hero moving frames. Let's save it, auto import it here, so like this. And I will also enclose this in an other div, and similarly for the stats I will again enclose it in an other div. Okay, now go to our hero moving frames. First of all, I will define some data for making this component. I have made an array with the three objects. Each object contains the position and the source of the image. Let's format the code, and then we have to import the motion from the framer motion. So import motion from framer motion, make this component as a client side component, so use client. And then here I would make a motion dot div, inside which we will iterate over the frames, and for each frame along with its index number I would return another motion dot div. And I think if we're making this motion dot div, then for the parent one we can just simply make it as a simple div without the frame motion. Okay, and then it is giving a warning of unique key, so we can add the key as our index number. Let's format the code. Okay, first of all, for our parent div, give it some class names of position relative, display flex. The height of this section would be 200 pixels, and items center, justify center. Let's save this. Because we have the three images at different positions, so inside this div I would use the image from the next image. The src would be the frame.src that we have here. The alt would be the monkey. And let's format the code. Delete this layout fixed from here, and also change these width and height. So I would say 187 and 183. Okay, give some class names as well. So height full, the width also full, object cover. Okay, let's format the code, and here we have these three images. Now define the CSS for each of this motion.div. So here add a parameter class name. It would have the position absolute. The height would be 200 pixels, 200 pixels, overflow hidden. Let's save it. Okay, rounded 80 pixels, and a specific background color which is a shade of white. I am just copy and pasting this value like this. Let's format the code. Let's save it. Okay, I think it is removed just for some reason. Yes, because we haven't defined any specific width. So if we define the width of 102 pixels, then yes, it is visible now. Because we have given the position absolute, so all of these frames are now top of each other, therefore only one is visible, which is on the top. But we will be defining the motion animation so that they will be rotating. The next parameter here would be the initial, which is false, so that when this component mounts in the React DOM there should be no animation. And then we have to define the positions of each of them. Before defining the position of each of them, let's use the use state. So const current index set current index, which is equal to use state from React, and by default it's 0. And then in the use effect there is no dependency. Make a timer function. If I go to the deployed version, if you see it very carefully, you would see each of this frame is changing its position after 4 seconds. So const timer is equal to set interval, and in this interval I would say set current index, take the previous value and then the previous plus 1 with the modulus of 3, so that it should no go more than 3, right? Because we have only 3 numbers. Okay, it is saying first of all there is a typo, this timer. Okay, and then when this component unmount, then this timer should also be cleared. So I would say clear interval timer. Let's save this. Next I will make a function const get position, which will take the index as a type of number, and then here I would define some positions. Okay, the first position is the left one. On the x direction it would be towards the left side around 50 pixels. I think there is no need to write the x, and then the opacity would be 0.65%. The scale would be 0.8% of its original size. Then the center one, for the center one the x would be simply 0, the opacity would be simply 1, and the scale is also 1. Similarly for the right side on the x direction, it would be 50 pixels slided towards the x, the opacity towards the right actually, the opacity 0.65 and scale 0.8%. Then I am writing a very simple logic of finding the difference of our frame index from our current index. Okay. It can be a bit of confusing, but I hope if you pause the video and see the code very carefully, you can get the logic. I would also try to make you understand this logic. So current index plus 3 modulus of 3. And then if difference is equal to 0, then the position right. Similarly, otherwise it's left, and by default is position left. Okay, so what happened here? We are getting the index of our frame from here. Okay, let me animate is equal to get position with the index like this. So we are passing the index from here, and these are our positions, and then we are checking the difference. Let's suppose our index is 0 and our current index is 2. Okay, so 0 minus 2 would be minus 2, and then plus 3 would be equal to 1. 1 modulus 3 equal to 3, and 3 would give the position left, which is this one, right? This position, which is here. So let me add some comment as well, so that when you get this code you will be able to understand it better. There is a little bit of explanation what I have said here. Okay, so something is appearing like this. If I am refreshing, like it's not very uniform, and I think for the center one we should give the z index of 20, so that it would be the top of any other frame, and still there is a bit of irregularity. Let's see where it's breaking. Okay, because in the timer we haven't defined the interval, right? So here I would define the interval of 400 with actually 4000 milliseconds, which would be equal to the 4 second. Now if I refresh this, yes, so let's wait 1 2 3 4, and here we have this in the center now, and again after 4 seconds we have this one. Okay, but for now this animation is very quick, although this is also looking very cool to me. But to make it exactly like we have here, which is very smooth, we just have to use the transition parameter. The movement in the x direction should have the duration of 0.8 seconds and the ease format of ease in out. Similarly, the animation on opacity property should have the uh, duration of zero point 0.3 seconds and the ease of ease in out. Let's save this, go to our current version, let's refresh this, and yes, it is working exactly like we have on our deployed version. So we have successfully made this beautiful animation. Let's move ahead. The next thing is stat items at the bottom. So close these hero moving frames.tsx, and in the hero sections, here we have these stats. So instead of this span, I would again make another component with the name stats like this, go in the directory, and here make a new component stats dot tsx rafce stats, import it in hero section. Let's save this, and here we have these stats. Okay, for the parent div, use the flex with the items center and justify again center, and then we would be having the three different stats here, right? I think I should also define the gap, which would be the 50 pixels like this. Now I would say stat item like this, and each stat item would take the two parameters. The first thing would be its name, so rare NFTs for the first one, and the number for this one would be equal to 10k. I think 10k plus. Yeah, this would be better. Like this, let's format the code and make a component of stat item. So const stat item. Okay, this is just a suggestion given by the GitHub Copilot. I accepted it. And name string, number string, it's good. Then flex call, that's good. Item center, that's also good. But gap 10 pixel, no, that's not good. Here write the justify center. So justify center and the uppercase. Okay, here I made a typo like this. Now there is a span with the text of 25 pixels and the font bold, that's good. And then this text should have the 10 pixels of size. Okay, let's save this, and here we have this one. And then after this one, make a next stat item. So I'm just copy and pasting. Use a different name. I would use the products for this one, and the number would be 70k plus. Then again copy and paste. For this one, I would say NFT artist, and let's make it 05k plus. Here we have these three stats. Now, if I go to our deployed version, these three stats are also showing animation when they are coming to the view. So we will be again using the motion.div for this one. Okay, before using it, let's import it first, right? And make it client side component as well. So use client and then motion.div, okay, and define some animations now. These very simple animation. Initially, the opacity would be 0. We don't need any y direction for now. And then when it animates, then the opacity would be 1. The next thing is transition of this opacity. For this one, we have to pass the two elements. The first one is the duration. The duration would be 0.4 seconds, and then the delay of zero point 0.2 seconds. Okay. Similarly, I'm just copying this. Okay, let's first apply this and see if our first stats showing animation. Yeah, it is showing the animation. Similarly, I'm just copying this motion.div and wrapping my second one like this one, motion.div. Let's format the code. And for this one, I would change the delay from 0.2 to 0.4. Similarly, I would wrap up my third stat item. And for this one, I would make the delay of zero point 0.6. Let's format the code, save this, refresh the page, and yep, a very satisfying animation. If you see very closely, I have increased the delay with each stat number so that they show in a line, right? First this, then this, then this. Now the last part in our hero item is this small text, right? It is very simple. Just go to the hero section, and actually we can also wrap up this small text inside our same div. So here I would say small info, make it the display flex. I think there's no need to make it flex or flex call, right? We can just simply make it a span, and inside this span I am pasting some simple text like this. Let's save it. Yep. Okay, so let's define some Tailwind classes for this one as well. So flex and the width of 202 pixels, items in the center, the justify again in the center, the text in the center, the text size of 7 pixels, which is really small. Then the line height would be 3. Let's save it, format the code, and here we have this small text, same as we have on our deployed version. Okay, so now our hero section is completed for mobile screen. Now we have to modify it for our desktop screen. Now if I switch to it full screen and I go to our deployed version, so there are a lot of changes that we have to do in the Tailwind classes, but the good part is it's very simple to do. We just have to add the modifier of LG colon, and we will try modifying each required thing for our desktop screen. It would be very quick. So let's start with the very obvious thing, which is the text size that should be bigger on the large screen. In the hero section .tsx, here we have defined the hero title, and for our complete title, we have written the text size as 25 pixel here. So for the large screen, I would say the text size should be the 60 pixels, and how I am writing these classes text 25, text 60, because as I mentioned in the start of this tutorial, that in the tailwind.config.ts we have mentioned the font size is here. So for the 10 pixel, I have made this class 10. For 14, I have made this similarly up to the 60. Okay, let's close this, save our hero section.tsx and check in the browser. Yeah, our font size is looking very good, but these frames are still looking very small. So if I see these hero frames, we have passed this LG parameter, but we haven't used them in our hero frame. If I go to the hero frame, you can see this LG parameter of height and width. We have set a variable here in our style, but we have not used these variables yet. So I will go to the hero frame module.css here, and I will make a media query for this one. Here write minimum width 1024 pixels, and means on the 1024 pixel I will target this frame class, and for this one I would say the width would be equal to our large width variable, and take it as important so that it should be applied. And then the height is also variable with the LG height important. Let's save this and see. Yeah, so these frames are also looking very good. Now let's check on our deployed version. Okay, so there is a bit of more padding on our deployed version, so fix this as well. In the hero section .tsx, at the end of the hero title classes, I would add on the large screen at the padding y of 25 pixels. Let's format the code, save this, see in the browser. Yes, it's looking good now. The next thing is about our bottom div. So if I collapse this hero title, here we have this bottom div, which includes moving frames, stats, and this small info. Currently, if you see, they all are in the column direction, but on the deployed version, they are in the row direction with different sizes, right? So we have to similar configuration. For doing this at the end of our bottom div, here I would say on the large screen, make the flex direction in the row and items at the start with the justify center. Yeah, justify center would be cool. So on the large screen, flex direction would be in row, items in the start, and justify center. Let's save this. And yes, now they are in the row direction. Of course, the alignment is not perfect, but that's what we are fixing. Okay, the next thing is we have also enclosed our these two things in a parent div. However, this span is not in a parent div. Let's give them different orders for our flex on the large screen. So I would say on the large screen, the order of our moving frames should be on the second position. And similarly for the stats on the large screen, the order should be equal to 3. And for this span on the large screen, the order should be equal to 1 on the first index, right? So let's save this and see. Now they are in the correct order. First we have the small description, then these animation monkeys, and then the stats as we have on our deployed version. But I think instead of doing the justify center, we should say it as justify between, so that they should be on the corners. Yes. Okay, let's pick the classes on the large screen for the small info. Here I will add on the large screen, make the text start and the line height as 6. Let's save this. We should also increase the text size on the desktop. So I have made the text size 14. I format the code. Let's save this. And here we have this. Next, go to these hero moving frames. go to the definition, and here define some classes again. So on the large screen, I would say the height of it should be up to 506 pixels. Let's save this. Then for each of this div, we have to increase the height and width. So the width would be 292 pixels. And similarly, on the large screen, the rounded value should be 165. Sorry, 165 pixels. Let's save this. So I am also adding the height parameter here. Height should be 506 pixel, which is equal to its parent div. Let's format the code, turn on the word wrap. Let's refresh our page. And yep, the size is now looking correct. But this animation and the distance of underlying elements and the size of this image is not looking very good, right? We have to configure all of these things. So let's go to our code, and here I will import is mobile from our utility hook, which is the use window size. Okay, so if I go to the definition of use window size, here I am returning is mobile true or not. So what it is doing, it is just adding an event listener of resize and calculating the width of the screen and checking if it's under 1024 pixel, then it is saying it says mobile, otherwise it is saying it says desktop. That's it. So after importing it, go here on the width and height of our monkey and add a condition. If it's mobile, then it should be 187, otherwise it should be 292. Similarly, for the height, if it's mobile, then it is 183, otherwise it is 506. Let's format the code. The next thing, we have to fix the animation. So we have defined the animation here inside the get position. So I would add a condition. If it is mobile, then it should be -50. Otherwise, on the desktop, it should be 120 at least, right? And similarly here, just simply add this condition. If it's mobile, then 50, otherwise 120. Let's format the code, save this, check in the browser. Let's refresh first. And yep, the size is looking correct. The next thing is these stats numbers. So in the code, I will go to the hero section, and here we have this stats defined. Go to its definition. First of all, add the modifier on the large screen. It should be in the column direction, and then we have to increase the size of text. So I would say on the large, I say on the large screen, the text is 45 for the number, and for describing the type of the stat, I would use the font size of 20 pixels. Let's save it, and yep, looking good. Now to make a sliding animation like we have on the deployed version, if I refresh, you see they are coming in by sliding. I have to change the code in the sliding animation as well. So first thing is, again, I have to import the is mobile const is use window size. It has auto imported here on the top. And here in the animate object, I am adding one more parameter of is mobile. Okay, so if it is mobile, then it should remain 0, otherwise -205 for the first stat. Similarly, for the second stat, I am again adding this condition x is equal to if it's mobile, otherwise it should be 105 on the x direction. And for the third one, if it's mobile, then it is 0, otherwise is -20. Let's save this and see here. Go to our version, refresh the page, and here you see it is looking just as we have on our deployed version, right? Okay, next thing, we have to make a very smooth appearing animation for all of our text. If I go to the deployed version and I refresh the website, you see this text is presenting a very soothing animation, which is very smooth and satisfying, right? So let's see how we can make such an animation with the framer motion. So except the hero section, all the other files, because we don't need them yet. And in the directory inside the components, directly I am making a new file with the name text animation .tsx, because we're going to use this text animation component all over our project. Therefore, I am making it as a separate component on the root level inside the components folder. Okay. The first thing, it would be a use client component, means it's a client side component. Then RAFCE text animation. Okay. In the props, it will accept the children, the delay, and then we have to define the types of our props. So for the children, it would be string and delay would be a number. Remove this div, make a simple span like this, and then add some GSX. So I will iterate the string that is passed in this text animation component. Split by nothing means it will iterate over each letter of our string, and then map. I will take each word, each letter along with its index number, and here we would return the, okay, let's first import the motion as well. So import motion from framer motion. Now I will iterate over each letter as a motion dot. I think it should not be div, it should be a span, right? Inside the motion dot span, I will be having an other span which would have the class name of inline block. Let's give it a key of index as well to make it unique, right? And then inside this span, I would write if letter is equal to an empty space, then return its Unicode. And otherwise, if it's not a space, then return the original letter. Let's format the code again. And now here we have to give some animations to our span. First, give it some class names as well. So class name, position relative, inline block, and overflow hidden. Okay. Then initial, in the initial, I will give it a clip path property. So you can also just copy and paste from this video 0 to 100, 100 to 100, and again 0 to 100. So it will make a thin line at the bottom of each letter, because if you try to visualize this shape polygon with these values, then you will see, you can use any online tool, you will see it will make a thin line at the bottom of a letter. And then y equal to -5, and then while in view. Okay, here again I am copy and pasting a clip path property. By using this property, this clip path takes the whole area of each letter, and y equal to 0 means its original position on the y-axis. Then I want only this animation when it comes to the viewport for the first time. So for doing this, we can pass this parameter in our motion elements, viewport once equal to true, and then transition how it should animate. So the duration of the transition should be 0.8 seconds. Then delay. So for the delay, I will use the delay that has been passed by the parameters here, and then plus index of each letter multiply by 0.02 to make it super smooth, and then ease equal to ease out. Let's format the code. I will go to the hero section.tsx, and here we have the hero title, expand it. In the hero title, we have our first line here. So instead of these spans, here I would say text animation, and then pass the parameters of delay. I would say it a delay of 0.8 seconds, and the complete name of component is missed by the VS Code in the closing tag. So just copy and paste it here. Again, format the code, save it and see in the browser. Okay, let's refresh it. Yes, the animation is applying perfectly on our discover word. I will go to the second word, collect, and again instead of span, here apply the text animation, give it a delay of 0.8 seconds again, 0.8, format the code, save it, go to the next word, which is this one, and say extraordinary. So here again, text animation, delay of 1.1 seconds. You can change these delays according to your preference. I just played a lot with these values and I found these are working best for our hero section. Then the last part is rear NFTs. So text animation, and here the delay would be of 1 second. Format it again, see in the browser, refresh the page, and here you see it is appearing just like our developed version. Now we need to apply same kind of animation on this text as well. But if I do this, let me show you first. So this is our span. In this span, I am making text animation and giving it a delay of, let's suppose, 1 second. Close it at the end of the string, format it, and save this. Now if I go to the browser, here you see it is taking a lot of time to appear and it is not looking super smooth because it is giving us an effect of waves. However, if I go to the deployed version, uh, this one, let's refresh it. Here it is a bit faster and not showing the waves too much. So how I have controlled it, let's go to our code again. Inside the text animation.tsx, accept another parameter which has the name divide by, and by default its value is letter. Go to the text animation.tsx and here add an other parameter divide by, and by default its value is word. Now give it the type as well. So divide by, yeah, it can have the two types of parameters, word and letter, actually the two types of values. Just above this return statement, I will make an if condition, and here I would say if divide by is equal to the letter, then just simply return that we have already built. So here it is closing. Let's close it here, format the code. So here I have written if divide by value is equal to the letter, then we have defined the split on letter in this logic. So this code will run fine. However, if the divide by is on the words, so else part would run for the word. I'm just copying and pasting our already written code. So just copy this span from here, paste in the else part, and here make the return like this. Let's format the code. Okay, now instead of saying it as an empty string, let's add a space here to get it divided by the words, and then instead of saying it letter, we should say it as word, and this word here, copy it. This condition is no more making sense here, so we can simply remove it, and I think we should also remove this span from here, return the word, and in front of each word add a space as well. So nbsp, we can write the code of spacebar. Let's format it again. Now I will tweak the parameters as well. So its duration would be 0 0.5 and the multiplier is 0.05 seconds. Let's save it. The initial clip path and while in view clip path can remain same. A viewport once true is also fine. Let's go to the hero section and here pass the divide by as word for this one, and for our all the other animation that we have made here, let's make the divide by letter from here and just simply copy this, paste it here and here as well, and last time here. Okay, format the code again, save it and see in the browser. If I refresh the page, now it's looking also smooth. With that being said, we have completed the hero section of our website. Now if I scroll down, we have this live auction section. And here we have a beautiful parallax effect with this monkey. As we are scrolling down, this monkey is appearing. So let's see how can we make this section. Okay, let's close all the files here. Go to our components folder and here make a new folder with the name live auction section. Inside this, make a new file live auction section dot tsx. Okay, RAFCE live auction section. Let's save this. Go to our page.tsx and just below this hero section, I will import this section like this. Let's save this. Go to our version, refresh the page, and here we have this. So it is imported. Okay, go to the section and remove this thing. Make a simple div like this. First of all, the display flex with the flex direction of column. The gap between the items would be the 40 pixel. Why I am doing so? Because if we see the layout of this section, we need two parts. The first part is this monkey block and the second part is this where we have the details and the buttons. So I will divide it like this: monkey frame. Let's suppose and make a div, say it simply monkey frame, and then I would be having the live auction details. Okay, again it is a simple div live auction details. like this. Let's save this. So by doing so, we will be having a clear idea of our layout, right? And I have given the distance of 40 pixel between these two elements. Now first let's create our monkey frame. So again, it would be a simple div inside which I would be having an image from the next image. Okay, give it the src. So I am just copying and pasting the path of this image like this. Alt attribute would be simply monkey, then fill, the class name object cover. Okay, close this element, format the code, save it. And here we have this because we have set it as a fill and there is no direct parent element with the position relative. Therefore, it is on the very root level. So to fix this, what can I do? I can make its parent div as the relative and the height would be 243 pixels for this one with the rounded LG. Let's save this. Although I have given this rounded LG, but still you can see it has very sharp corners. So I can do it as overflow hidden, the background gradient to bottom. And next we have to define the colors of the gradient. So we have to give the two colors from and to. Okay. So from and to, these two colors, they are actually just the shades of our primary color on this website. So option C, let's save this. And here we have this monkey inside the gradient. Go to our live auction details section here, make our div and give it a styling class name display flex direction column, and gap between the elements is 14 pixels. Why I am giving the gap of 14 pixels? If I go to the deployed version, here you see this live auction, then this title, and all of these areas are in the column direction. Therefore I have given the flex column to the most parent div. On the top we have a very small heading of live auctions, so I would give it a display flex with the gap of 12 pixels between the elements. And in this one we need to make a small vertical purple line, right? So div height auto, and for its width I would give it a width of 4 pixels with the rounded medium. And background color, I am just copying and pasting a color here for now like this, and we can make it as a self-closing div. Let's format the code, save this, and see here if it's something appearing or not. I think nothing has appeared, and the reason behind it is very obvious because for now we have given the height as auto, so there is not any absolute height. To have some heights, let's add a span with the heading of live auction. Now it should be appeared. Yes, here you can see we have this live auction written. Okay, for this span, give it a class name of text 12 pixels again. Let's save this, and we want this text to be animating again. So text animation, and by default we have given it the divide by word. So if we give the parameter or not, it will not make any difference. Let's just confirm it, text animation, and just divide by word, it's the default. But just for the surety, I would say again divide by word, give it some delay which would be 0.3 seconds, and format this. Let's save this, and this text is animating. I know it's on the bottom left corner and we have this static route. Yeah, now we can see it better. After this small section which has started from here and ended from here, let me make a heading for this one as well, as live auction. Okay, now the next thing we have in the deployed version is this heading. So for this heading, make a comment of heading. I am adding these comments for you guys so that when you see this code, you understand everything very quickly. So span with text of 30 pixels, and in this one I am just simply copy and pasting this text. Okay, so something like this. Let's save it, go to our version, and we have here. Now this font should also be in bold format. Okay, we can apply the animation again very easily by simply importing the text animation, giving it a delay of 0.4 and divide by word. Format it. Animation is applied. Let's see what next we have in our version. So next section is this one where we have two blocks, the creator block and the collection block. So I would give it a comment of blocks, then a div with the flex justify between, and the gap between the elements would be the 20 pixels. Okay, now here there will be the two blocks. So first let's define the component of block. Const block. It will accept some title and it will also accept the image. The last parameter would be the name. Define the types for all of these parameters. All of these can be just simply strings. So string, image is also string, and name is also string. Okay, complete our returning function. So return, in the return statement there will be a div with the flex and flex1, then a span. Inside the span I will have the title. Okay, let's use this block here and pass all the required parameters. The first parameter will be the title, so I am just copy and pasting this component with the required parameters. So let me copy it from here, paste it from here. So I have made the two blocks. This one is the creator and I am passing the image, the name, and this one is the second one. Let me format the code again. Go here. First let's check what we have on the website now. Okay, here we have these two blocks, the collection block and the creator block. The title is provided here. Now we will have the detail. So for the detail, let's make an other div, and inside this div we will have the image. Image would be coming from the next image, and we will make the source as image that we have received. Give it the alt, and for the alt I would say it as 3D avatar with the fill property and the class name rounded full. Okay, as we have given this as fill, so we should give the parent div as a class name of relative. If we give the parameter of fill to the image, and if we don't provide any parent div, then it applies to the background of our complete website, right? After making it as relative, give it the height of 25 pixels, and similarly width would also be 25 pixels. Let's save this, and here we have these two images. The next part would be the name. So I am rendering another span and simply rendering the name. Okay, let's make the styling correct. First of all, give it the flex direction of column so that the title and details are in the column direction like this. Now we can make a parent div for this detail, right? So here make a div with display flex and enclose this like this, format this like this. The gap between the elements is 14 pixels with the rounded LG and a background color, uh, this background color. Okay, the padding on the horizontal direction would be 20 pixels. Let's save this. Now we have to give some padding in the y direction as well. So py would be equal to 11 pixels. Yeah, very good. Now we need also some distance between this and this. So here on the very top, I will add a gap of 14 pixels. Finally, for this pen, I would enclose it in the text animation again because we want text animation to be appearing all over on our website. And the only thing I have to give it a delay of 0.5 seconds. And for its parent pen, I will give the text size of 14 pixels. Just save this, and yes. Similarly, if I go down for this name, again the text size would be the 14 pixel. Wrap it inside the text animation and give it some delay. I will give it a delay of 0.5 seconds again. Let's refresh the page, and yep, it's done. Looking kind of similar we have on our applied website. Yeah. Moving on, next we have these bid blocks. In the first block it is giving information about the current bid and then when it's going to end. So for these blocks, I would again make another component and I would give it a name of bit block. This will be again a React component which will be returning some JSX, of course. So something like this. And in our top component, which is the original component, here we have defined the simple blocks. After this, there would be the bit blocks. For the bit blocks, display flex with the justify between. And here I would be having the 2-bit blocks, right? The gap between them, I can make them like we have on the top. I think we have 20 pixels here. So I'm simply copying this and pasting it here. We haven't written anything in the bit block, so write something like bit block. And yes, it is appearing fine. For this block, it will again be accepting the two parameters, the title and the content. And both of these parameters, of course, would be just simply string. And the JSX can be defined as display flex with the flex 1, the direction flex column. Now define the elements inside them, the span with the text 14, text animation, and simply the title, then give it a delay of 0.5 seconds. Similarly, going down, span with the text of size 27 pixels, and we also need to give it a font bold. Now here paste the content. Let's save this. Okay, there is an issue which is saying children dot split. Okay, yeah, because we haven't provided these strings in the bit blocks, therefore it is giving the issue. Let me quickly copy and paste this as well. So in the first bit block, I am giving the title of current bit and content this one, and this is for the second one. Let's save now and see. Yep, it's looking fine. I think we should also apply the text animation here on the content. So text animation, I think again the delay of 0.5 second would be nice to have here. Let's go to the top and try to scroll again. Yep. After this, we need to make the two buttons like we have here, start mining and learn more. Okay, to make the buttons, I will again make a reusable component inside our components. So directly inside the components, I'm making a new file with the name button.tsx, RAFCE and button. Okay, for the props, it would have the two props, the children's and the variant. By default, I will give it the variant of filled button. Now give the types. For the children, it would have a type of React node and the variant. So variant can be the field and the outlines. Let's format the code. And here it would be simply a button. And for now, just render out the children and then we will see how we can style it. Okay, let's save this, and in the live auction, collapse this one. Here we have the bit blocks, and after these bit blocks, again display flex simply. The gap between the elements would be 20 pixels as we have given for this div, and for this div I'm just pasting the same thing, but for this I am giving the padding top of 10 pixels as well, right? Now make the two buttons, auto import it, and for the first button I am saying start mining, and for the second button I am saying learn more. Okay, here we have these two buttons. They both are not looking good and doing nothing. So in the button, let's start styling the class name. So in the class name, display flex, the width will be full, item center, justify center, rounded medium. The padding on the horizontal would be 24 pixels. Let's save this. Okay, it's coming to the shape, and the padding on the y-axis would be the 9 pixels. Now the background of this button would be the primary, and here we have these two buttons with the same type of color. However, this is not intended, but just for now, check our font first. Make the font as semi bold, the text color white. Okay, We need to make the two variants of the button. Therefore, we have accepted the parameter of variant. So in the live auction, for the second one, I will give the variant as outlined here. And then I will use the tailwind merge, right? So enclose in the curly braces, then in the small braces, and here TW merge. I'm removing the background primary from here because I will give the background dynamically now. Okay, add the second parameter, and the second parameter will be decided by the variant. So if the variant is filled, then add the background of primary, and if it is not the case, then give the border color of primary. Okay, so what I have done, I have imported the tailwind merge. I have given the default class name, and if it is filled, then the background would be orange, otherwise the border would be orange. uh, there is no border because we haven't given any border width. Let me define the border width as well, which is the 2 pixels, and now it is appeared. I think now the padding in the Y direction is not looking good in this button. The issue is the space is missed. So if I add a space simply here and save it, okay, now we have the Y direction padding. Also, I want for the outlined version, the background should be transparent, and on hover, it should have a very slight white color. So now I am hovering on this. I am seeing a correct color in the background, and our filled version is also looking fine. Now for the children, give the span with the text 14. The next part is we have to apply the parallax effect on this monkey image when we are scrolling up and down. For making this, go to live auction section.tsx, and here we will use the use ref, use scroll, and use transform. Okay, so first of all, make a ref const container ref, use ref from the React. It would be an HTML div element. By default, the value would be null. And I will assign this reference to our monkey frame. Ref is equal to container ref, right? We have to make this section as the client side because we are using the hooks. And in any component where we are using the hooks, we need to make them the client side. The next thing is I need to check how much this section is appeared in the port. Because if I go to the deployed version, at this point, when this section is a bit more than half, there is no monkey. However, if I keep scrolling and this section keep coming in the view, then this monkey also starts appearing in the viewport. So to track the visibility of this container, I will use the uScroll. So const scroll by progress, which would come from the uScroll from the framer motion. The target is container ref, and offset is equal to 0, 1 and 1, 0. Okay. So 0, 1, 1, 0 means when this section starts appearing, then starts the value from 0 to 1. Now let me show you something. If I apply the use effect and give it a dependency of scroll by progress, so whenever the scroll by progress changes, then I need to print the progress. So scroll by progress dot on change, there would be a value. So simply just do a console log of that value. Okay, so this will give us the estimate how much this section has been scrolled. Go to our current version and inspect this. Okay, in the console, let's clear all the console logs, and now if I start scrolling, here you see the value of our scroll by progress is increasing, right? And now it is in the middle, so it's 0.5% almost. So it is giving us a track how much this section is scrolled. Let's close the console, close this use effect. Okay, now I will give the parallax effect of monkey by using the use transform hook. So const monkey y value use transform from the primer motion scroll y progress, and when the scroll progress grows from 0 to 0.7%, then monkey should change its y position from 300 to 0. Again, you can play with these values as much as you want, but I have played with them a lot and I found these values to be working fine for this project. Sorry, this should be 0. Import the use transform. uh Use transform, it is imported, then why it is okay. It is just giving warning that monkey y is assigned but never used. Similarly, use effect, let's remove the use effect from here and go to our image. Now I will make an other motion.div. Let's see if I have imported the motion. No, I should import the motion as well. And on the top of this image, make a motion.div, which will act as a wrapper of our image here. And for this one, the style would be y equal to monkey y, and the class name, uh, again it will be the relative height 100%. Width would also be 100% because we have given the absolute width and height on the top level wrapper. I think we have only given the height, not the width. Anyhow, from the bottom, the distance should be the 0 pixel, and from the left, it should also be the 0 pixel, and similarly from the right, so that this image would be in the center of this gradient div. Okay, margin left auto, margin right auto. Let's format the code. There is an issue that use transform cannot be properties of the 0. Okay, the issue is here I missed a scare bracket, and okay, so now if I am scrolling, this monkey is appearing. Currently, it is not able to appear correctly because we haven't made more sections at the bottom. But as our page grows down, this monkey would start behaving accordingly. Let's make this section responsive for the desktop now. Okay, on desktop, the first thing we need to do, this whole section is in the row direction on the desktop, and on the desktop the gap between both of them should also be more. Save this, and okay, the monkey block is not appearing. Let's fix this as well. So this is our monkey frame, and here on the large screen I would give it the height of 601 pixel and the flex of 1. Similarly, the rounded 3 XL. Let's save this and see now. Okay, it is appearing correctly, but because we have only given flex 1 to this one, therefore it is taking a lot of space. Let's give the flex 1 to our right side as well. So here we have live auction details. Yes, I think here. If I give it flex 1 here, this has fixed the issue of our width. Okay, now on the large screen I would give the justify between as well. So these are our classes for the large screen. Let's save this. We need to increase the width of this small purple line on the desktop. So the width would be 12 pixels, and then increase the text size of this. So text would be 25 pixels here as well. Let's check. Yep, it's looking correct. Come to our heading, and here on the large screen make the text size as 60 pixels, and the margin top would be 40 pixels in minus direction. Then go to these block section, go to the block definition, and we need to change the text sizes here again. So let me quickly make this text size 25 pixel, and for this details div on the large screen, the padding x would be 25 pixels and padding y would be 16 pixels. Then we need to increase the size of these images. So lg height 40 pixels, lg width 40 pixels. Now the last part in this block is increasing the font size of name, which will be text 25. And yes, let's make these remaining things responsive on the desktop version very quickly. go to our bid block section, and here we just need to increase the size of the text. So on the large, the text would be 25 pixels, and similarly here on the large, the text would be 55 pixels. Now it's turn for the buttons. Go to our button.tsx, and here on the large screen, make the text size 20 pixels. Save this. Okay, we need to change some x and y paddings as well. So here on the top class string, which is common for our filled and outline variant, let's add on large screen display block, and on large screen the padding x would be 43 pixels, and similarly the padding y would be 18 pixels. Save this, and yes, the button is also correct now. If I go to our deployed version just for the comparison, yes, it's almost similar. And let's try to see the behavior of our monkey scrolling, right? So see how it's appearing. When we're gonna make more sections, then it will give us the complete effect. Let's close button.tsx and live auction.tsx, and in the page.tsx, I'm gonna make a new section with the name popular collection section. Okay, uh, let's go to the directory, and inside the components, make a new folder with the name popular collection section. Inside this, make a file with the same name. Okay, in this file, RAFCE, and fix the name. And let's auto import it in the page.tsx. Okay, and here we have this section, popular collection section. Let me close this one, right? Let's move this div and make a new div. The first thing is we have to give the heading of this section, which will be get popular collection here, and then this should be the text animation. Enclose this like this, give it a delay. So the delay would be 0.2 seconds and divide by letter. Okay. Then because everything would be in the column direction, therefore the class name would be flex with the flex direction of column, and the gap between the elements would be 29 pixels. Let's format the code. And for this section heading, I will give it a class name with the text size of 30 pixels. And in the X direction, the padding is 15 pixels. Text center, and the font is bold. Let's format the code, save it. And here we have get popular section here. So, and here we have get popular collection here. Okay. If I go to the deployed version, uh, here we have this heading, and then we have these categories, right? So let's make this category section now. So here I would say the category section. I would make an other component for this one like this. Go to the directory, and here I am making a new component with the collection category dot tsx, RAFCE collection category. Let's save this and import this right here. Save it here, and yep, collection category. We already have the data for our collection category names. So if I go to our data folder inside the app, here we have the data, and here is the collection.tsx, right? I think not this one, but this one, yeah, top collection, right? So we will be importing this one. Let's remove this name from here and enclose this inside the curly braces for the logic. And here I would say category data auto imported, and then map. After this, for each category, I would iterate over them, and let's return some divs for them. Okay, for this div, I will give it a key of category dot value. Yep, this one. Let's format the code again, and inside this div, simply render the name of our category. Let's save this and see here we have all of our category names. Now let's do some styling. So for the parent div, I would give it the flex with the flex wrap items center, justify center, and the gap between the elements is 14 pixels. Let's save this. Okay. Then for this category div, I will give it a class name of cursor pointer. The text size is 10 pixels, rounded, full. The border color is 50% white, so white divided by 50%. And then on the horizontal, the padding is 20 pixels, and in the vertical direction, the padding is 8 pixels. Let's save this. Okay, they are looking pretty good. The last thing I should verify here is text should be in the center of this. Right. Now, if I go to our deployed version, here you see when I am clicking on any category, then its color is becoming orange. So this is a type of an active category. Let's see how can we achieve the same effect. So I would go to our popular collection section, and here on the top, let's make a use state. So selected category and then set selected category, which is equal to use state. The type is string. Okay. And by default, the value is all. Let's format the code. And I would pass both of these parameters in the collection category. So selected category, which is equal to selected category, and then sets, I think I should just copy and paste the names here. Set selected category is equal to set selected category. Uh, Save this, go to our collection category here and pass both of these parameters here. So selected category with the set selected category, and let's give types for both of them. So I am just simply giving the selected category as select as string and set selected as a function with the return type of void. Okay, then on this div, I would say on click set selected category as category dot value. Just format the code. And then here I will use the Tailwind merge to make the styling for our active category, right? Let's enclose this in the curly braces and then in the small braces, and here add TW merge, and in the second parameter I would add some logic. So I would say if the selected category is equal to category dot value, then in that case return the class of background primary and the border none. Format it again. So what I have done here, I have included the Tailwind merge. By default, this is the class name, and if the selected category is equal to our current category, then the background is primary with no border. Let's save this, go to our current version, and here is a problem. uh, Again, we have to make this section as a client side section, so use client, and here we have, right? But there is something bad with our this animation. Okay, this was just some rendering issue, and here we have this proper animation with these categories changing its active state very beautifully. Now we have to add the animations, because if I go to the deployed version, let me refresh it and see how these categories are appearing one by one. It is a kind of stagger animation. So in the collection category, on the top here I will define the container variants. So const container variants, and these container variants would be applied for this parent div, right? So this parent div would have the two states. The first one is opacity, which will be the 0 by default, means when it is hidden, and when it comes into the view, then opacity should be 1. And for the transition, I would say stagger children 0.1 second delay. Okay, so it will stagger all of their children with the difference of 0.1 seconds. Let's make this parent div as a motion.div. So for doing this, on the top I will import the motion first. So import motion from framer motion, and then for this div write motion.div. Let's save this, and then here variants would be equal to the container variants. Go to our current version, refresh this. There is no issue. So far so good. After this variance, I would say initially the variant would be hidden, and then while in view the variant should be show, and then viewport is equal to once true, so that animation should play only one time. Now similarly For these child elements, which are the categories, I will make another variant for them, which is the item variants. When it is hidden, then opacity is 0, and in the y direction, they are up to the 20 pixels. And when they are shown, then this is their state. Okay, make this motion.div again. And for the variant, say as item variants, format the code, save this, refresh the page, and here this animation is applied. So these hidden and show elements are inherited by their parent div, right? The next thing that we have to make, uh, this one, these cards, these are the assets on this NFT websites, right? So for these cards, we have already defined the data in our data folder. If I go here in the data folder, we have this collection.ts. I hope this one is collection.ts. Yep, the name, the username. If I go here, this one name, username. Yes, this one is the data. So we will be using this collection data for generating these cards. Let's analyze this data. First, we have defined the name, which will be for this one, then the username, which is this one, then the avatar for the image, and these NFTs background color and the image, right? So let's see how to define this in our actual component. After this category, I would say the collection cards, because all of these cards in the column direction, so I would give the flex with the flex direction in the column. And then as a child of this div, I will iterate our collection data. So import the collection data right here, dot map for each card. For now, just simply render a span with the card dot name. Yes, and we also have to define a key. So the key is equal to the I, which would be equal to the index of our card. For now, I'm keeping it very simple. Let's save this. Go to our version here, and we have these card names, right? Now further, I will give the parent as flex wrap, the items in the center, justify also in the center. I think justify would be okay on the start. And the gap between the elements is 29 pixels. That's it. Let's save this. We have these names here now. Now we also have to apply the filtering on this, because on the deployed version, when I'm clicking on different categories name, these cards are actually changing their appearance based on the category. If I'm selecting all, then all cards are appeared, and if I'm selecting only music relative, then only music relative card is here. So how to apply this filtering here? Instead of simply just rendering a span here, I will add some logic. Okay, I will add the logic on the base of our selected category that we have defined as a use state. So I would say if the selected category is equal to the all, which is the default state on which all the cards would be the visible, so I would take the source as simply collection data. However, if that's not the case, then I will apply a filter on the collection data, and in this filter I will only take out the cards where the category matches with the selected category. So the card category is equal to the selected category. That's it. And then because this complete condition is returning us an array, now I would map on the base of this array again for each card. Now if I render a span with the card dot name, let's save this. I think I should also use a key here. Now let's format the code, save this, go to our version, and if I go to the game, you see only the card name which is relative to game is here. 3D abstract, see it is changing the number and the names. So that means our filter logic is working perfectly. Now we have to make these cards. So I will wrap each card inside a div, and let's make a separate component for the collection card. Okay, for this div again key is equal to the I. Go to our collection popular collection section, and here make a component with the name collection card dot tsx rafce collection card. Let's save this, import it here, pass the props, so the card is equal to the card. Basically, we are passing the data of our card inside this card prop. So let's accept this prop here uh, by doing the card. Now, if I simply render the card.name to verify if we have accepted the correct prop or not, so implicitly has any type, it is giving us an issue of type. To define the type of our card element, I will simply take the example of our data. So in the collection.ts, we have a name, we have a username. These all are strings till here, and then we have an array of NFTs, which is having the BG, which is again an image, which is again a string, and image, which is also a string. So I'm simply copy and pasting the type here. This one, card with the name, username, all of these are simply strings, and the NFTs is an array. Let's format the code so you can understand it better. Now let's save this, and yes, it is working fine. Let's go to our deployed version and see the layout of our card. So in the card, we have first of all this gray background, and then we have two major sections in this card. First one is header, where we have this avatar, name, username, and this like count. And the second part is this grid, where we have three photos. So I would make the layout accordingly. Let's make a div here. First of all, for this div, the first section is header, for which I am saying as header, and then the second is grid. So for this div, I'm simply saying as div grid. Okay, define the class names for it. Display flex width 100%, flex direction column to keep the header and grid in the vertical. The gap between both of these elements would be 20 pixels. Rounded, I think if I give the rounded 10 pixels as well, it would be okay. And the background is white divided by 10. The padding is 10 pixels again. Option Z to enable the word wrap. Let's save this, go to our current version. Okay, here we have the header, grid, and the column direction. Now define the header first. So for the header, again, div with the flex items at the start and the justify between. The first thing is the user card. Actually, instead of user card, I should say it as user info. Okay, in the user info, we will be having the image and the username and the actual name. So it is a kind of card, the profile card. So div flex items in the center, and the gap between the items is 3. The first thing is user image in this. So image from the next image, the src of the image is card dot avatar, and then the alt is user. Close this element, format the code, and I'm giving it the layout as fill. Let's save this. Again, we have to make a parent element for this image, div with the position relative, enclose the image inside this one. The height is 26 pixels, and the width is also 26 pixels. Let's save this. This image should be in the round shape, so I will give some more class names to our image. I would say as rounded full with the object cover. Format the code, save this. Okay, that's looking fine. The next part is user info. So display flex with the flex direction in the column, so that the user actual name and the username are in the column direction, in the vertical direction. The first thing is username, pen with the text size of 12 pixels, card dot name, format it, save this. Yep. Uh, here we have the username, and the next thing is username. For this one, span with the text size of 10 pixels only, and here the card dot username. Let's save this. This username should be small, so therefore I have given it 12 pixel on the top, 10 at the bottom, and also I am making it a bit faded, so the text white with the 50% opacity. Let's format the code again. Okay, so our user info is complete. If I collapse this user info, this is our complete user info, and then I have to make the heart symbol and the likes count. So I'm simply saying it as likes count, which would be again a div with the flex and items center. The gap between the items is div relative. This is for the heart image. So image src is equal to inside our images folder we have heart.png already put there. Alt is heart layout fill and with the class name of object contain. Okay, close this, format the code. This is here. Actually, I have to define the width and height. So height is equal to 18 pixels and the width is also equal to 18 pixels. Is it working now? Is it working now? I think it's still not working. Let's see why it's not working. The issue is here I have made a typo in the spelling of relative. Now it is fixed. Make this class name. So this is the heart png and then I have a span. In this span I'm simply writing a hard coded value of 63 likes. For this one I would give a class name of text 11 pixels. Save this. Got it. Now let's finally move to our grid of monkey. If I see in our deployed version, we have two columns in this grid. In the first column, we have only one image, and in the second column, we have the two images. So for defining this layout, I will use the CSS property grid. So div dot grid and grid calls two, so that two columns would be there with the grid calls two, and the gap between the column would be 4. Okay, then this is the first column with one image. For this image, div dot position relative and the width full. Okay, the height of this is 257 pixels. Overflow hidden. In this div, let's use the image. So image src, which is equal to car.nfts, and then the first element of the nfts and then the image of that nft. The alt is collection element fill class name object cover. Format the code, close this, save it, and here we have this image. Let's move towards the second column. So our first column is ended here. Then there is a second column. This column, again a flex in the column direction. The gap between the elements is 4. Then it's the time for our second image. So div with the position relative flex 1, the width full and overflow as hidden. The corners are rounded large. Okay, define the image in it. src is equal to car dot nfts into one dot image. The alt is collection image, again layout fill class name object contain. Format the code again, save this. Here we have our second image. Now similarly in this div we have to make our third image. So for third image I am just simply copying this and pasting it here, but instead of our first image I will be using the second image. Okay, now there is a problem that the width of this card is not correct. So I will go to our most parent div for the card, and the most parent div here also have the width 100%. So we have to correct something in our this section. So we have a parent div here for our each card. Let me format this, right? This is the parent div. So for this one, I would say the width full, and now our card is having the full width. Then I would go to our collection card.tsx, and I have to give the different background colors for each of this image. For this thing, I will use the style property. This is our first image. This is the class name. So here I will add a style that the background color is nft0.bg for the first image. Save this. Here we have this one. I think I should give it a rounded LG. Then I am pasting it on our second image, but this time first one, and then this is, but this time the index is 2. Format it all, save this, and yes, our card is ready for the mobile screen. Now if I try to filter these cards, you see this is very spontaneous. It is not giving a very smooth effect like we have on our deployed version. Let me refresh this and see, when I am changing the collection, the cards are disappearing and appearing very smoothly. So this effect is called animate presence in framer motion. Let's see how to apply this effect. To apply this, you have to do a very simple thing. It's very simple. Here we have our most parent div. Inside this div, make an other parent div with the name animate presence imported from the framer motion, and the mode is pop layout. And close this perfectly, format this, so this one and this one, save this, and now see its effect on our actual website. I think it's still not applied. Yeah, I forgot one thing, therefore it is not applied. We have to import the motion as well and make the child divs as the motion element to see the effect of this animate presence. So motion dot div, key index, class name, width full, that's all good. Let me format this and now add some parameters for the animations. Initially the opacity is 0 and the scale is 0.9, and then the animation should be like this. When it comes into the view, then opacity is 1, scale to its actual size, and then when it is going out of the view, then opacity is 0 and scale 0.9. We refresh this. Now the transition, so transition is duration 0.3 seconds, and the most important factor here is layout. You have to give this parameter of layout to apply the animate presence. Let's save this, and now if I apply the different categories, you see they are appearing and disappearing very smoothly like we have on our actual website. Let's make this section perfectly responsive for our desktop screen. If I go to our deployed version, we have the heading size a bit bigger and the text size of these categories is also bigger. Then the alignment of these cards is also something different from our current state, which is in the column direction. However, here we have the rows which are wrapping around. So let's see how can we make all of these changes. Let's go to our VS Code, and on the top of this popular collection section .tsx, let's increase the gap between these three things, which are the heading of this section, the categories, and the cards. So on the large screen, it would be 76 pixels. Similarly, we have to increase the text. So text would be 60 pixels for this. And now we have to go to the collection category component, go to the definition, and here we have the text size of 10 pixels. Let's increase this as well. Text should be 16 pixels here. Save this and see in the browser. Yes, it is increased, but we also have to increase the X and Y padding for these categories. So at the end of the class names, which is actually representing the each category pill, here I would say on the large screen, the minimum, I think I have missed something here. This should not be here. I think it is only accepting it here. Yeah. So on the large screen, the minimum width of this pill should be at least 100 pixels, and the X direction padding would be 40 pixels. However, the Y direction padding would be 11 pixels. Let's save this, check in the browser. Yes, it is looking good. Okay, now let's move towards this card section. In the popular collection section.tsx, here we have the parent div for all of these cards. At the end of this div, for the desktop, I will give it some minimum height. So on the desktop, this section at least have the 755 pixels in height. The flex direction would be in row, justify center, and the gap in X direction would be 42 pixels. Similarly, gap in Y direction on the large screens would be 25 pixels. Let's save this. See here. Okay, still our cards are in the column direction. The issue is in the code. Here for each card we have given the width as full. So if I hover on it, when we apply the width full, it gives it the width of 100%. Therefore it is taking the complete width. However, on the large screen for now, I would say the width should be auto. Now if I check in the browser, these cards in the row direction, but it is still not looking good because we have not optimized the classes for these cards when they come on the desktop screen. Let's go to the code, go to the definition of our collection card, go to the definition, and here on the top div, on the large screen, increase the gap between the elements up to the 20 pixels. The maximum width of a card on the desktop can go up to the 380 pixels as well. Let's save this and see if it makes any difference. No, not yet. So let me give flex 1 as well on the large screen, and on the large screen the padding within this card should be 20 pixels. Let's save this and see in the browser. Yeah, the padding is applied, but still these cards are in the row direction. Further in this card, here we have the image. Yeah, so this is the image for the likes count, and if I expand this user info, here we have the image for our user avatar, right? So I would increase its height to the 47 pixels and similarly width as well. So width 47 pixels on the large screen, and here we have to increase the size of this text up to the 18 pixels, and similarly for this text, the username, I would give it the text size of 14 pixels. Let's save this and see in the browser. Yes, the text size increased. Okay, let's go to the code again. Next, we have this image of heart. So I will increase the width and height as well for this. So let me give it the height of 20 pixels and the width of 20 pixels. Then for this likes count, make the text up to the 18 pixels. Save this, see in the browser. Yes, this text size is also increased. The next thing we are missing here, if for these columns where we have applied the width full, if I also apply flex 1 for it, and similarly I just copying this. Okay, it is already applied here and it is also here. So let's save this and now see in the browser. Let me refresh it. Hmm. Still it is not making a much of difference. The column widths are small, therefore the cards are not coming into the shape as we have on our deployed version. Let's debug this. If we go to the top of this card, here we have defined the maximum width which is possible, but we have not defined the minimum width. So if I say the minimum width, let's suppose if I make it 380 pixels as well. So yeah, now you see it all coming to in shape. So in short, if doing this maximum and minimum as 380 pixel, if I simply say on the large screens, the width should be 380 pixels, then it should be enough. Yes, if I refresh the page, here you see our this section is also completed now. Now moving on next, if I go to our deployed website, here we have our top collection section. We are where we are displaying a kind of list with different numbers and images, and then we have this subscribe section. So let's quickly create this section. Let's close all the open files. So close all, go to our directory, and inside the components, let's quickly make a new folder with the name top collection section. In this folder, make a new file with the name top collection section.tsx, and in this file again rfce, fix the name top collection section, and let's save this, import this in our page.tsx, which is our home page. So here we can call it like this, and now let me refresh it. Here we have our top collection section. Let me remove this icon of static route. uh, okay, in this top collection section, let's start making our content. So first of all, let's make a parent div in which first we will be having our heading. So inside the span, I would write our top collection because everything would be in the column direction on the mobile device. So flex Flex call and the gap between the elements would be 16 pixels. Actually on the desktop it would be column as well. Okay, now for this pen I would give it the class name of text 30 as we are giving consistently, and then the padding X would be 28 pixels, the text in the center and font bold. Okay, then we have to apply the animation on this text. So text animation, wrap our string inside this and then pass the parameters. The first parameter is delay of 0.2 seconds and then divide by letters because it's the heading. Format the code, save this, and here we have our heading. Okay, next we have to display the list of our collection. So here I'm making a comment of collection list. For this I would make a div again with the flex direction of call and items in the center. We have a JSON object with the name top collection data inside our data. So if I go to top collection inside the data folder, let me show you in the directory. So here inside the app folder, we have the data folder and then this top collection.ts. We have all the data required for this section. Okay. So top collection data dot map for each item along with its index number. Let's simply return a div and for now write the item dot name. Let's save this and see. Okay, there is an error. Let's see what's the error. Okay, the error is about the unique index. So I can pass a unique index like this. Let me format it again. Save this. Okay, so the data is imported correctly. Now let me apply some more styling. The first one is justify center. The gap between these elements is 10 pixels. And then inside each element, if I go to our deployed version, let me check there first. Okay, inside each element, we have the user image, its index number. Actually, this is not the index number, but the entry number, then the name and the amount. So these are the things that are required. So inside the div, the first thing is about its entry number. So span, which can be equal to index plus 1. And for this span, we can give the class name text 16 and the font bold. Let's save this. Go to here. Okay, here we have the entry numbers. And now we have to make the user information. So here comes the image. From the next image, let's put the src, which is the item dot image, and then the alt. Let's say it as image collection. Then the width, which would be equal to 35. And for the height, I am again saying it as 35. Now the class name, the height of this would be 35 pixels. Actually, we have already defined here, so there is no specific need of writing it again here, but the specific need is for rounded full. Okay, let's close this component, format the code, save this, and here we have this image. I think after this entry number, I should add a full stop and a space as well. The next thing is we have to display the username and the amount. So I am making a next div with the flex call, and then define the gap between the elements. So the gap would be 5 pixels. And here comes the name with the font bold. Okay, so item dot name, and I think I should also give the text size. So text is equal to 12 pixels. Let's save this. Yes, here we have this. The next thing is the amount. So again, a span with the font bold and item dot. In this price, we are not showing the comma separation, which makes the number easy to read. So to show that, we can write a simple JavaScript function to local string, not the Ethereum. Okay, now we have the commas here. Let's add a dollar sign as well. Give some text size to it. So text 10 pixels and the text white with the 40% of its color. Okay, everything correct. Now we have to make it in a perfect layout. To make the layout perfect, here we have the parent div for each item. And in this div, I would give it the flex in the row direction. So there is no need of writing flexuro because it's by default. Give it the width of 100% and the maximum width which it can take is 320 pixels. Items center. Let's save this. Okay. I think justify should also be center. So justify center. Give some gap between the elements like this, and then the border bottom of white color with the 40%. So there is no border because we have to define the border bottom explicitly as well. So now if I save this, we have the border bottom, but it's still not looking as good as we have on the deployed version. Let's fix some things. I think we should not use the justify center because it is making all the content in the center. Yep. And now it's time to add some vertical padding. So in the vertical padding, I am adding the 9 pixels and yes, it's done now, I think. Yep, it's looking exactly same. The next thing to focus on is the animation of these items. Let's see on the deployed version how these items are coming into the view. Let me refresh the page and here you see how they are appearing one by one very smoothly. However, on our current version, these all items are just there instantaneously. So let's make this animation. So to make this animation, let me format the code and we have to define the motion.div here. Let's first import the motion from framer motion. Import motion from framer motion. Add a dot here. Let's check if the closing tag is fixed. Okay, yeah, it is fixed. Now for this motion.div, we know what we have to do. We have to give some initial position to it. So initially the opacity should be 0 and on the y-axis it should have the 20 pixels of distance. And while in view, when it comes into the view, make the opacity and 1, opacity as 1, and on the y-axis it comes to its original position. The animation should happen only once, so viewport once true, and the last part, the transition definition. So the duration of this transition should be 0.5 seconds and delay. So here's the main thing, delay. How much delay each element should have. We will multiply a fraction of second with its index number. So index multiply by 0.1 second with the ease as ease out. Let's save this. Okay, we have to make this section use client as well because we have used the uh, framer motion. Let's go to the section again. And here it is appearing smoothly. Let's refresh this and yes, let's make it responsive on the desktop quickly. Okay, let's make the heading bigger on the desktop. So LG text as 60 as we did for our rest of the sections. And then we have the parent div for our collection here. Okay, so on the large screen, the margin top would be 4 and flex as row and then flex as wrap as well. Let's save this, check the results. So the alignment is now perfect. We just have to increase some gaps and the text sizes, which is very quick. So add one more class here. On the large screen, say the x-axis gap would be 16, and if I hover on it, it is saying the 16 is equal to the 4 rem. Okay, cool. Let's save this and see here. Yep, the gap is fixed. Now the next thing is this motion.div, which is our single element. So on the large screen, the gap between the components of this element would be 19 pixels, and similarly on large screen make the the y-axis padding as 28 pixels. Save this, check here. Yep, it's looking fine. Now increase the text size for this infinite number. So on LG text is equal to the 20, and then we have to increase the text size of this item dot name. So text, sorry, LG text is equal to 18 pixels, and just copy this, paste it here as well, format the code, save this and see in the browser. Yep, our section is fixed. Let me refresh and it is appearing smoothly. So how quickly we have made this section by using our animations and our predefined data. Okay, Let's go to our deployed website, and the next section we have to make is this subscribe input and then this rolling company images. Close our current file of top collection section and again go to our components folder. Here make a new folder with the name subscribe section. Make a new file in this with the name subscribe section.tsx rafce subscribe section. Let's save this, import this inside our page.tsx. So subscribe section, let's close this and see here we have subscribe section imported. Okay, now let's make this component. First of all, div flex with the flex direction of column and the width full. Okay, then I would say the items in the center justify center the gap between the elements as 16 pixels. And inside this, first of all, make a span with the text size of 30 pixels, in which I would say subscribe to get latest updates. Let's save this. And here we have our heading subscribe to get the latest updates. Then on the X direction, I would give it the padding of 28 pixels, the text in the center, and let's make the font as bold. Okay. Yep, our heading is fixed. Then we have to add the animation. So I would reuse our component text animation, wrap this and give it a delay of 0.4 seconds and divide it by letter. Let's save this and yes. Animation is also looking good. Let's format the code again. Check on the deployed version. On the deployed version, after this heading, we have this small text as well. So let's quickly show this text. So I would make another span. And for this span, I am giving the text of very small 9 pixels. In this span, let's write a dummy text, lorem ipsum. Again, give it some text animation. So sorry, text animation like so. Give it some delay. So for the delay, I would say it's 0.5 seconds because our top heading is having delay of zero point 0.4. So it would appear a bit late than the heading, and then divided by word because it's a very small heading. So we can divide the animation in words, and yep, it is here. Moving on, next we have to make an input field and a button. So input and button like this, div with the flex direction. The first thing is input, so simply make a input. Let's save this. See here, yes, here I have a very basic input, and after this input let me make our button as well. So button, I am importing it from the button variant field. Inside this button I would say it as subscribe. Save this. Yep. Okay, now let's style our input. So first of all, the type of this input would be the text placeholder. I think for the type, I can give the type as email. Okay, because of course the user would require a valid email to subscribe to our newsletter. Therefore, instead of simply saying text, let's say it as email. Then in the placeholder, enter your email, give it some styling. So the width would be 100%, or simply you can say it as full. Open the word wrap, and the maximum width of this could be 320 pixels. Okay, and the rounded medium border, and the border would be white 20% like this. I think the border is not visible at the moment. Let me make the background as white with 10. Yep, now the border is visible. So moving on next, give some padding in the X direction so that our placeholder or any text that we will enter in this field like this. So we will have some distance from the left and right side. So 16 pixels would be enough. And now for our parent div here, I am giving a gap of 9 pixels between the button and the input. So let's compare it with our deployed version. So on our deployed version, it is looking like this. No, we have to increase the width of our input. To increase the width here, I have defined the maximum width as 320 pixels. I would say the minimum width it can have is at least 216 pixels. Okay, now let's compare. Yep, it is looking good like we have on our deployed version. I think this word break where updates is broken down into the two words up and date, we should fix this. So I can fix the px up to 20 pixels. Sorry, not here, but on the here. If I make the px, yep, here. So it's 28 pixel. Let's increase it up to the 38 pixels. Still not good. Let's update to the 40 pixels. Still not making difference. So 45 pixels. Yep. Now it's looking good. Subscribe to get latest updates. Switch to the desktop version now and make this section fixed on the desktop. The first thing we're gonna do here, we have written the gap of 16 pixels. So on the large screen, the gap can take up to 37 pixels of distance. And then our heading would be 60 pixels, large text, 60 pixels. Similarly, for this text on the large screen, this would be 14. Let's save this and see on the browser. Yeah, so last thing we have to fix is the width of this input. So I will increase the size of this width for the large screen, the minimum width. So I would say on the large screen, the minimum width would be 554 pixels. Save this and yep, now it's looking exactly our deployed version. Yep, let's try to scroll and see the animation, how animations are looking on this section. Collection, yeah, very smooth and nice. Let's move towards the next section of companies icons. These icons can be your partners, your clients, or any companies that are affiliated with you. You can showcase them here, and it's a very common section in a lot of website nowadays. So let's build this. Let's close this file, subscribe section.txx, and inside the components folder, make a new folder with the name companies section. Make a file companies section dot tsx rafce companies section. Save this, import this on our page. Companies section like so. Let's see here, the section is imported. Okay, so if I see our public folder, in the starter pack, I have provided some images. So inside the images folder, we have this folder of companies. So inside the companies, we actually have the 7 logos of different companies that will be sliding. Close this, and start this section. So first of all, a div with position relative and width full with the y direction padding of 10. So if I hover on the 10, the 10 is equal to the 2.5 rem from top and bottom. Means because we have provided the y, therefore top and bottom. Then div with the white space, no wrap, and inside this div, I would make an array from length. Because I have the 7 images, therefore I am making an empty array of length 7, and then map for each of the item in this array. Make a div with the class name of inline block, inside which I would be rendering an image. For the source of this image, make the path something like this. Inside the images, companies index plus 1 png. The alt would be company. The height is 150 pixels, and similarly the width is also 150 pixels. Then class names. Before defining the class name, let's see if the images are coming or not. Okay, each child should have a unique key. So first let's fix the key. Here I can give the key as index. Still we are not able to see the logos. Yes, because there is something wrong in this name here. The name is looking like this. Now we have all the 7 images of different companies. Give some class name. I would say the minimum width can be 100 pixels. The width would be 150 pixels. The height similarly would be 150 pixels, and object contain. I think if I just remove this and simply say object contain, it should do the job. Let's give some spacing between these images, you know, between these images, and make this overflow fixed. So to make this overflow fixed, here we have this parent element, right? So to fix this overflow, here we have the most parent element, and for this one we can say it's overflow hidden. Now we are not scrolling horizontally anymore. Okay, and then for every image we have this parent element. Next, we have to define the animation for the continuous slider of these logos. So here I will give an animation class of animate scroll. There is no such predefined class in the Tailwind CSS animate scroll. We will be making it customly. So open our global.css. So in our directory inside the app, we have here on the root level globals.css. Here I would be defining the animation, animate scroll. Okay, the first thing would be display. So display as inline block, and then the animation. So for the animation, I am giving the animation as the class name of as a type of scroll with the 20 seconds linear infinite. So it will be running linearly for infinite loop, but there is no such animation in the CSS with the name scroll. Again, we have to define this animation scroll. But before defining, let's say minimum width as maximum content so that all icons should be appearing. Okay. Then the keyframes scroll. So inside the keyframes, we are actually defining this animation. So for the scroll, the first would be from the transform translate x started from its original position and to where it should go, it should move completely. So translate x minus 50%. Okay, let's save this. And here we have the moving icons. But there is something wrong here. There is no gap between these elements. Let's see why such happening. If I make an other div on the top of this array and give it the display as flex, actually not flex, let's give it as inline flex and the items as center. Let's wrap all the things inside this div, format the code. So this is our new div. Let's save this and here give a gap of 78 pixels. So now there is a proper gap between the elements, and let's see how it is scrolling. So we have given the time duration of 20 seconds to pass this slider completely. The issue is on complete scrolling, there is a lot of gap I'm seeing. There is no more icons once it completes its cycle. To fix this, what can we do? What can we do? Let's see again. Actually, what's happening here? So this is completing, and there is no more icons. There's no more icons. Hmm. If we scroll this complete animation 2 times, means if we make this element 2 times, then we can somehow fix this issue, right? So let's do something like this. Make an array of 2 elements, spread it out, and then for each element have a container index, and then inside this, okay, let's remove it from here. This is the div. Do something like this. So here we have the container index, and inside the container index we have the 2 times our elements. First of all, let's give it a key. So key would be container index, and the next key we have here. So for this key, we can make it a combination of container index plus simple index. So it would always be unique. Format the code. So here what we have done, we have made this element, this complete element two times. Let's see how it's appearing. uh, okay, the issue is now there is no more gap. Somehow we have fixed the issue of ending scroller, but now there is no more gap between the first and the second element. So after this gap, what can I do? I will give the margin right of 78 pixel, which would be equal to the gap between the elements. Let's save this. And yep, now it's looking completely fine and it would be running infinitely. So this is its view on the desktop. And if I go to the mobile version, yes, on the mobile, it's also looking cool. So that's it from this section. Now our last part, which is the footer of our website. Let's make that. Close the company section file, close this global CSS, I think, and we can close this page.tsx as well. Okay, inside the components, make a new folder with the name footer and make a file footer.tsx. Here again, RAFCE and footer. Now we have to import the footer in the layout where we have placed the header as well. So after the complete page, the last part is the footer. So import this from the components, save this, see our current version, and here we have the footer section. Okay, now let's develop the footer. Inside the footer, everything would be flexed with the direction in the column and the gap between the elements 5. So again, if we hover, the gap 5 is 1.25 rem. Let's see why I have made this. So if we closely see the layout of this footer, first there is a top section where we have the logo and this subscribe and ready to collect. Then on second we have this divider, and on third we have this section where we have multiple links and the social icons. So we will be targeting each of them one by one. So on the first we are, it is irritating. So on the first we are targeting this section, the logo and this subscribe and ready to collect. Okay, so here I would say the top section with title and subscribe button so that you can follow with me easily. The first thing would be flex with the items in the center and the justify between, because these two things should be at the most left and the most right side, therefore the justify between. Now I'm simply importing the logo so that we are reusing an element. Here we have the logo imported, and then again another div with the flex items as center and the gap between them 4. Okay, that is a span. In this span, simply say ready to collect. Save this. It is appearing on the right side as expected. For this span, give it some class name. The text would be no wrap and the font as bold. Okay, then we have to make a button. So the button would be simply subscribe and import this from our reusable component button, and the variant would be filled. Save this. Here is a beautiful button of subscribe. So we have completed the top side now. So if I collapse this, the next thing is the divider. So divider can be a self-closing div like this, and for this one the class name is height of only 1 pixel, the width 100%, and the background white 50%. Let's see. Yes, we have the divider now. The next part is the bottom section with the links. Bottom with links. This is the third part. Now again, if we analyze the layout of this bottom section, it is also very interesting. First, we can divide this bottom section again in three parts. In the first part, we have all of these links, and in the second part, we have these two lines, and in the third part, we have these social icons, right? So for achieving this layout, again, we can have the flex with the flex direction of the column and the gap between them of 8. Now make a grid of these three columns at first, right? Links, or you can say page links. Because we have to make a grid, so I would say div dot grid and grid columns with three columns. The gap between the columns should be 4. And now if I say div into simply, let's say 1, copy this 3 times, save this and see here. Here I have the 3 divs, but they all are appearing. Okay, yeah, because here I have misplaced the hyphen. Let's save this. Still there is an issue. Here I have placed the grid with the grid column 3. I think it should be working. Okay, here I have made another typo. It should be grid. So now these 3 divs are in the 3 columns. Okay, let's start with our first column, and I can make a heading of column 1. And for this column, it would be a flex with the text size of 16. And I'm simply copy and pasting some elements here. So this is the heading of this column, text primary font bold as the marketplace. Let me format the code. And after this heading, there will be some links in it. So for some links in it, I am using the link from the next link, and these links again in the column direction with the gap of 2. So if I save this, here you see there is again some problem. This should be flex as call, right? Flex call. Now it is looking perfectly fine. There is a need to increase some gap, so gap can be 4. Very cool. So as we have made this first column, simply we can make the second and third column. So I'm copy and pasting because it is just repetitive work, nothing new. So it's a second column. Format this. You can pause this video and copy the contents from here. And now it's time for our third column. So this is my third column. Format the code again. So in the third column, we have only 2 links. Let's save this. And all of the links are here. Okay, go to the top, and this was our grid, right? Let's collapse this. Now is the second part where we have the 2 lines. I am just making any comments. So go to deployed version. In these 2 lines, we have these: create, sell, and collect NFT digital arts. Let me make another div with the flex direction of column, text in the center, items in the center. Uh, that's it. Then make a span. I think what can I do, as I'm already using the flex with the flex call. So instead of saying it as only 2 lines, I would say 2 lines and social icons. Let's wrap all of these things in this div. So now for these 2 spans, I would make an other div. An empty div would be enough. The span with the text size of 16 pixels, like create, sell, and collect, and then a line break, and then a new span with the text of 16, font bold, NFT digital arts. Save this. See, in the browser we have these 2 lines, and then here we have the social links. Okay, again this is very simple. Just make a div with the items in the center and the gap of 4. Okay, I'm pasting a link here. Image should be from our next image, and then let me open the word wrap. And then for this image, what I have done, I have given a parent element of link with link to our page, main page, home page, and then there is an image of the LinkedIn alt social width 40, height 40. Save this. Here we have, there should be some distance. So for the distance, I can give a gap here, 5. And yep, distance is looking good. So as I have placed this link, similarly I will place the links for other images, I mean other social icons. So we have the Twitter as X, Facebook, YouTube, Insta. Format it all. Have a view inside the social links. We have placed all of these images. Save this. Sorry, here, save this. and yep, it's done. Go to the desktop version and quickly fix this for our desktop. Again, the very first thing, we have to increase the text sizes, right? So for this ready to collect on the large, the text would be 25 for this. See on the browser, yep, looking correct. And if I go to our deployed version, on deployed version, the layout looks something like this. It's very interesting that all of these three columns are on the right direction and these two lines and the icons are on the left direction. Let's see how can we use our classes to have such a layout. So this bottom section, which is having the links, where we have these columns, grid columns with page links and these lines, etc. So on the large, I would make all of them in the row direction, and similarly on large, the justify should be between. Now check. Okay, the order is wrong. This should be on the right side and this should be on the left side. So fix the order of this page links first. Here I would say on the large, it should have the order 2, and also on the large, the gap between the elements should be 10. Increase some necessary font sizes. So here we have given the text 16. On the large, I would say text as 18. And then further moving on, let's collapse these page links. Here, I made a typo here. Okay, here on the large, make the items at the start, the text from the left side, and justify between. Let's save this and see in the browser. Yep, it's almost in the shape. We just have to increase the size of these lines. So here on the large, the text can be 25 pixels, and similarly for the bottom line, text as 25. Just save this. See here, now it's looking exactly like our deployed version. Okay, I should make the D capital here. Now the two important things are still remaining in the development of this website. If I go to the developed version, here we see the two blurs in the background that are very trendy nowadays. The first one is behind the logo and the second one is behind these stat numbers. So how can we develop these white blurs in our actual website? So let's go to the code, close all the files, go to the layout.tsx, and just above this header, make a self-closing div. Okay, this div would be acting as our first blur element. So class name absolute. This blur would only be available on the desktop. So left 0. On mobile it is hidden. So by default I am giving it as hidden. However, on the large screens it would have the display block, the height as 400 pixels, the width also as 400 pixels, the background white, the opacity as 10%, and the blur 3XL. Let's save this and see. Here we have this blur element, but we have to fix the position of this blur a bit more. So after this blur 3XL, I would say on the large from the top, it should have minus 100 pixels. Save this, see, and now it is looking exactly like our developed website. Okay, it's time for the second blur. So for the second blur, let me format the code first and add a comment, bg blur. And for the second blur after this header, again I am giving the bg blur. Simply copy and paste this element again, and we have to change the position. So from the top I would say 700 pixels, the opacity as 5, and rest of the things looks good to me. So yeah, I think I should also fix from left to right. Right. Okay. Now let's go to the website and let me refresh this. It is not visible. Let's check why. Okay. The issue is due to mistake I have given it the minus top 700 pixel. However, it should be in positive. Save this and see. Here we have this blur. Okay. Now to enable the smooth scrolling, we will be using a Node.js package Lanis. So if I go to the browser and write Lanis npm, this is the first search result, Lanis, and we will be using this plugin to enable the smooth scrolling. So let's see how can we use this. Inside our VS Code, go to the components folder and here make a new file with the name smooth scrolling.tsx RAFCE smooth scrolling. Okay. Then import the React Lanis. So import React Lanis from Lanis into React. Make this component as client side as well. So use client. Okay. Now here React Lanis and we will be accepting the children's here and simply render out all the children inside this. Now we can specify some props. First of all, it would be a global instance. Then options of the behavior of scrolling. So in the options, give the lerp as 0.5 and the duration also as 0.5. Let's save this. Okay, we have to define the type of this children as well. So children is equal to react dot react node. Let's save this. And inside the layout, we have our body element here. So I would enclose all the elements inside the smooth scrolling. Let's enclose all the elements inside the body as the smooth scrolling. Let's save this. Now go to our current version, refresh the page. And if I'm scrolling now, it is giving me a very smooth experience. Actually, it is a good practice to use smooth scrolling when you are using these type of text animations and such kind of parallax effects. They look really smooth with the smooth scrolling. So yep, the development of our website is completed. It is looking really cool on the desktop, on the mobile. So if I switch to the mobile version, let's refresh. And yes, it is looking completely fine for me on both the devices. The next part is the deployment. Let's move towards that. We will be deploying our website on the Cloudflare. I know most of us use the Vercel to deploy the website, but Vercel is very boring. So therefore, to give you another better option, because Cloudflare is highly underrated, I love using Cloudflare. So let's try how can we deploy our this next project on the Cloudflare. The first thing we have to do, go to the app and inside the page.tsx here we have to add our runtime as edge. Okay, so const actually export const, not simply const. So export const runtime as edge. And if you are building a Next.js application which is having multiple pages, then you have to add this runtime edge on each of your app page. Let's save this. Next, open up your terminal. You can quit your development server now, and we have to install a npm package as a dev dependency for the Cloudflare. So write npm I minus d for the dev dependency flag at the rate Cloudflare next on pages. Let's wait for its installation. It is installed now. Now we have to make some changes in our package.json. So here we have our package.json. Add an other script command. So after this lint, add pages colon build, and for this one use npx cloudflare next on pages, and don't add this build at the end. Let's save this. Now try to run this command in the terminal to see if it is successfully running or not. So we can run npm run pages into build and let's see. Okay, so the build was successful, means our Cloudflare export is also working fine. Next, we have to upload our project on the GitHub, right? But here I am seeing that 127 files are here. However, our project is not so big. The issue is it has included .vercel, right? So open the .ignore, so the .git ignore, right? And here include .vercel as well. Now these files are reduced to the 28. Okay, before going on next, let's do one thing. Here we have our package.json, right click on it and reveal in Finder. And if you are Windows, then you can search for reveal in File Explorer. on this directory for the first time, this will look like this. Means some files will be hidden. So on Mac OS, to see those files, you have to press Command Shift full stop, and then you will see this file. So you have to delete this .git folder. Just delete these. Similar steps you can follow on the Windows as well. Now go to the VS Code again, and here make our first commit as init. Okay, it is saying no get repository. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So what we have to do, open up the terminal and here write git init. Okay, it has initialized a new repository for us. Again, add all of these changes, commit them, publish the branch, and yes, it's fine. Nexus YouTube tutorial, and I'm making it as private. Let's wait for its publish. Okay, open on GitHub and see if it is published. Yes, yes, it is. So here it is present on our GitHub account now. Next, we have to go to Cloudflare pages. So Cloudflare pages. Go on this first link, log in with your account, and you will be having such a sidebar. So in the sidebar, uh, there should be this compute workers and then workers and pages. Here, click on this button create, go to the pages, connect to Git. Now you have to log in with your Git if you haven't already did it, because my GitHub account is already connected with the Cloudflare. Therefore, it is simply giving me all of my repositories. So I am connecting my this newly uploaded repository, Nexus YouTube tutorial. Click on the begin step, and yes, the main branch, Nexus YouTube tutorial, framework preset. From the framework preset, select the Next.js, and it will automatically fill the build command and the output directory. That's fine. Now in the environment variable, we have to add a variable with the name node version and specify the node version for this build as 18.18.0. Okay, save and deploy. Here you will see all the step details, what's happening in the deployment. Okay, the deployment is completed, and here we have our link. On visiting our newly deployed website from the Cloudflare, you will see this error, Node.js compatibility error. So to fix this, you just have to copy this flag from here, go to our dashboard, and here go back. I am still in the configuration of Nexus YouTube tutorial project. So go into the settings and go to the bindings. Here in the bindings, add this flag. So just paste Node.js compat, save this. Now go to the deployments again, and here retry deployment. Now let's wait for completing its deployment again. Okay, redeployment completed. Now it's time to check our deployment again, fingers crossed. And it is all there. You can see it is now hosted on the Cloudflare. I can provide the link of this website in the description of video as well, so you can visit this website before the development to just experience it first, right? And see all of the things are working. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you have learned a lot of new things. I tried my best to make this tutorial as simple as possible and beginners friendly. If you like my dedication, if you like the efforts I have put in this tutorial, then please subscribe and like my channel. You can also support me on Patreon. I will see you in some next tutorial. Till then, goodbye.